Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching a movie on what if Naruto ends Neji during Chunin exams. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Nobody anticipated that the prodigy of the branch family, Neji Hyuga, would defeat the disgraced former heiress of the main branch and cousin Hinata in the preliminary round following the second stage of the Chunin exams. Blood was streaming from Hinata's mouth and onto the cement floor as she staggered, went to her knees, and fell over. Naruto, who had been clapping moments before, suddenly gave off a horrified look as Hinata's body collapsed to the ground, trembling and breathing rapidly. Kurenai screamed. Hinata, in horror and heartbreak, breaking the silence as she leapt from the balcony to the ground and hurried to Hinata's side. Without hesitation, Naruto pursued her while Kakashi attempted, but was unable, to stop him, allowing his blonde pupil to dash over to the girl who had suffered fatal injuries. Hinata was rolled over by both Kurenai and Naruto, with Kurenai holding her head in her lap and Naruto attempting, but failing, to console the dying girl. Kurenai, ma'am? Did I perform well enough? Did I prove myself? Hinata asked, her voice soft and even more gentle than usual. Yes, you did, Kurenai replied, struggling to hold back her tears as her best friend passed away in front of her. Naruto, Hinata uttered feebly as she turned to face him and slowly grabbed his cheek to nudge him in the direction of her. I've watched you from afar. All these years I admired you, respected you, and eventually fell in love with you, Hinata continued. The girl had stopped stuttering, blushing, and fainting, and Naruto was staring at her in shock. She was speaking clearly for the first time, and Naruto was enthralled with her voice. I never doubted you for even a moment when you said you were going to become Hokage. Hinata remarked, I'm just sad I'll never see you fulfill your dream, and then, using all of her remaining energy, she gave Naruto a tender kiss. After a brief period of shock, Naruto returned the kiss, oblivious to the blood's taste. Naruto gave Hinata one last glance as they parted, watching as the life left her lavender eyes and her lungs. Looking at the now dead girl, Naruto realized too late that he had been blind to the fact that a girl had been loving him all along. Just when he found love, something he had been denied his entire life, his opportunity to experience it was suddenly taken away. A voice called out to Naruto from a few feet away, saying, Hey loser. This is a match, not a sporting event. Stop that ridiculous yelling and take that piece of trash out of here. Naruto turned to face the person who had just struck down the girl, who was now dead. All eyes were on Naruto, waiting for him to charge, yell, or even use the chakra of the nine tails. With the exception of Kurenai, who was strolling beside the blonde was able to pick up the girl's body with little difficulty and began to leave the arena, blocking out all outside noise and distractions. Naruto missed the remaining matches because he was too preoccupied sitting in the morgue with Hinata, while Kurenai was silently grieving for her deceased student while brushing the girl's hair. On the third day, Konoha Public Cemetery. Naruto was standing in front of Hinata's grave. The day after Hinata passed away, Naruto learned that the head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi Hyuga, had rejected the body of his disowned daughter. He declared that her death was a blessing because it meant that she would no longer be able to bring shame to the clan and that a weakling like her did not deserve to be buried in the Hyuga family cemetery. Naruto heard a noise coming from behind him as he stood in front of the grave, but fortunately the third Hokage was able to find a plot for her so she can at least have a proper burial. He turned and saw the familiar Might Guy. Naruto. The man in green clothing said, I'd like to talk to you. I am aware of its purpose. It's about my match with Neji in a month, correct? With a hollowed out, lifeless voice, Naruto gazed at the man through dull, icy blue eyes that betrayed no discernible emotion. Guy started, yes, it is, I was wondering, but Naruto interrupted him. Save it, there's nothing more to say. Guy was looking at Naruto. I'm going to kill Neji during that match. Unless you're here to kill or cripple me, nothing is going to change that. Now please leave me. Naruto spoke in a voice that was remarkably uncharacteristically calm and even. Guy gave the boy just a few more seconds of his attention before turning and walking away. As he left in a swirl of leaves, Kakashi thought, looks like this village has created another Sasuke, but unlike Sasuke, Naruto has a chance to exact his revenge. I hope Naruto can return from this path. Knowing that what was about to happen in a month will be entirely up to the grieving blonde boy, Kakashi watched the exchange from a distance and saw Naruto, the hyperactive knucklehead ninja, now a determined avenger. Day 2 at Training Ground 7. As he practiced live combat, Naruto was attacked simultaneously by 10 of his shadow clones. Every time a punch or a kick was delivered, Naruto counterattacked with even more brutality. Kakashi did make an attempt to get Ebisu to mentor him, but he turned it down since the man wouldn't be able to do much to help him avoid his inevitable matchup with Neji. The sole benefit of his encounter with Ebisu was that he encountered an odd, white-haired pervert who reversed all the evil that Orochimaru had inflicted upon him in the Forest of Death. Following that, Naruto said goodbye and went on to complete his own training and attempt to devise a plan. An intruder forced his way in and stopped him in his tracks. He turned to face the intruder and noticed a girl, who couldn't have been older than 10, standing a short distance away. Given her fair complexion, dark hair, and distinctively round eyes, he surmised that she belonged to the main branch of the Hyuga clan based on the information he had learned from Kurenai and the lack of any tattoos on her head. The silence was broken by her neutral question, "Are you Naruto Uzumaki?" Naruto turned to face her, saying in a level voice, "So what if I am?" "Hanabi Hyuga, I'm Hanabi." "You knew my sister Hinata," she said, observing Naruto wince at the mention of her sister. "Yeah, I did," Naruto replied with a rage. "Why are you here to tell me that I should accept her death, that she was a failure? Well, if you were, then we're gonna have a big fucking problem." When Hinata was brought up, Naruto could not contain his rage. Seeing his reaction, Hanabi grinned evilly and started talking. "No, I'm not here to slander my sister. I came here for a different reason," she said, pulling out 3 scrolls that she had hidden in her pants waistband. "I want your help," Hanabi said, confusing Naruto. "I want you to do what I can't." "I want you to kill Neji and avenge my sister," said Hanabi. As he took the 3 scrolls and read the outside, which contained the words, "Basic, Advanced Chakra Control, Forms 1 through 5 Gentle Fist and Blind Spot Countermeasures," Naruto gave her a shocked look. With a skewed expression, Naruto asked the girl, "Why, in one word?" "I loved Hinata, I really did. If our bastard of a father hadn't driven a wedge between us, we could have been closer," Hanabi said, her smile turning into a sad and angry face. "I always listened to her talk about how she wanted to fix the clan and mend the bond," Hanabi said, her voice breaking. Hanabi said, her eyes clouding with tears, "I also heard her mention a boy. A boy who was hated, who dreamed of being Hokage and who never broke a promise once he made it. Hinata was the only person I cared about and she was stripped away from me. So, I want to help train you." What she said caught Naruto's attention. "I've always been a better fighter than Hinata, so I'll teach you the gentle fist style and how to counter it. It'll teach you the Byakugan's weaknesses and strengths, and once we're done, your victory against Neji is assured and our desires for justice will be fulfilled." With a determined expression, Hanabi addressed Naruto, gazing into his cold blue eyes with pale lavender ones. With a determined expression in his eyes, Naruto kneeled in front of Hanabi and addressed her, saying, "This is how we honor Hinata. I promise that I will kill Neji, avenge Hinata, and help you change the Hyuga clan." A burst of smoke materialized behind them as Naruto unleashed a kunai and Hanabi assumed her fighting stance, readying themselves for what they both knew was about to happen. Before the smoke cleared, Hanabi and Naruto saw the strangest thing they had ever seen, an elderly man with white hair who was standing on a gigantic toad and had a giant scroll on his back. "You two gave such a beautiful and moving performance. It really touched me." "Who am I, you ask?" "My name, the Toad Hermit and one of the fabled Sannin, is known far and wide from east to west and from north to south." The elderly man with white hair who was posing atop the enormous amphibian cried out, "Jiraiya the Gallant." When they both turned to face the scene, Hanabi and Naruto had quite different ideas going through their minds. "Isn't this the old dude who did that weird punch to the gut on me to unseal my chakra?" said Naruto. "Ew, is that a giant toad?" Hanabi shivered, his face full of disgust. Though Hanabi's germophobia made her want to flee, she couldn't afford to appear weak in front of the guy she wanted to kill her cousin. "I feel like taking a bath in hand sanitizer, who knows what kind of diseases you could get from it," Hanabi thought to herself. "I heard about your little plan to help this blonde runt kill that murdering cousin of yours, so I decided to come and offer my services," Jiraiya said with no qualms. Hanabi raised her voice and questioned, skeptically, "And how do you plan on helping?" With a seductive smile, Jiraiya remarked, "I turned the 4th Hokage into the legend he was, and now I'm offering the same to you for a price, of course." Naruto asked, not liking the direction this was taking, "What do you want?" Jiraiya laughed as she said, I'm looking for inspiration for my next book, pulling out a copy of ICHA Paradise. Get me a few pictures of some naked ladies and I'll gladly help. With all of her prepubescent disgust, Hanabi knew that neither she nor Naruto could possibly obtain images of nude women for this sleaze. Transform, yelled Naruto, causing Hanabi to blush as she turned to face him. Naruto then transformed into a curvaceous, busty, and pouty-faced naked woman. The womanized Naruto begged for assistance in training Jiraiya-sama, saying, "I'll be ever so grateful." Jiraiya nodded and jotted down notes in his book until Naruto returned to his normal self. "Okay, old man, let's." Before Naruto could finish speaking, Hanabi kicked him in the balls and then kicked Jiraiya as well, screaming obscenities at her until she was drenched in sweat and panting heavily. Jiraiya said, "Both of you meet me at the waterfall in the southern part of the village at 6 a.m. tomorrow," as he disappeared in a swirl of leaves as the old man and the blonde boy slowly and painfully stood up. As Hanabi strode back toward the Hyuga mansion, Naruto turned to face her and thought, "Hinata was I love with that cross dressing pervert." For the last 2 weeks, Naruto has been training very hard. Naruto's skills have been rapidly improving since he met Hanabi and Jiraiya. This is primarily because Jiraiya revealed to him the Shadow Clone Jutsu's secret. Before then, Naruto was unaware of the utility and learning potential of his favorite jutsu. Naruto's taijutsu and chakra control have been steadily improving because of Hanabi. His hard-hitting, bar-brawler fighting style has been replaced with a gentle fist that places more emphasis on causing internal damage than blocking chakra points. Naruto was forced to learn basic anatomy because he lacked the Byakugan. From there, he was able to determine the best places to use his new style of fighting. The brainstem and temples would be the best places to strike for a coup de grace, while the heart, liver, kidneys, spleen, small intestines, and aorta would be the best places to strike during a fight. Along with teaching Naruto how to water walk, Hanabi also made it seem like a little child to be following orders from a girl who wasn't even old enough to watch PG-13 movies on her own. The girl would often make fun of Naruto's unsuccessful attempts at water walking and chastise him for not being a shinobi before telling him to try again. Conversely, Jiraiya had been aiding Naruto in both his ninjutsu and chakra manipulation of the nine-tailed fox. At the moment, Naruto was attempting to learn the Rasengan and Summing Jutsu from the elderly hermit, but he was having difficulties with both. He was having trouble summoning something larger than a tadpole with the Rasengan and also struggling to keep it stable without it blowing away. Jiraiya advised Naruto to use no more than 60 clones at once in order to prevent memory overload and turn him into a vegetable. Thus, every day, Naruto produced 60 clones, of whom half trained with Hanabi in taijutsu and chakra exercises and the other half learned how to use the Rasengan while the original Naruto engaged in summoning exercises. A second tadpole poof caused Naruto to growl, "Fuck, why is this so fucking hard?" Jiraiya simply palmed his face. "You can't seem to get it down because you can't use both of your chakra evenly. In order for you to do it right, both of your chakras need to be in sync," the white-haired Sannin remarked. With a somewhat more composed tone, Naruto said, "Well, do you have any advice?" "Yes, there is a way, but it's rather dangerous, and I have a good feeling you won't take it. After all, you would probably run home crying your eyes out," Jiraiya remarked, seeming to infuriate the boy even more with her devilish smirk. "I'll do it. I am not some weak little kid. I'm sure I can do it. I bet you everything in my wallet that I can," yelled the blonde boy as Naruto gave him a defiant, hate-filled glare. The Sannin responded with a broad smile and a gesture for the boy to follow him, which the boy did. 10 minutes later, Hanabi and 15 Naruto clones were seated in a school circle, staring at her. As the rotation is happening, all chakra attacks that hit the barrier will not only be deflected but will hit the sender back with equal force. That is why. A loud explosion rocked the floor, sending Hanabi sprawling onto her ass. After a few minutes, Hanabi saw a figure on top of the toad's head and used her Byakugan to get a better look. As she regained her bearings, she saw a large toad smoking a pipe and having a katana strapped onto its side in the distance. She then noticed the original Naruto, who appeared to be yelling, stomping, and generally furious, leading her to question what he was doing. As the other clones got up and were about to dispel, Hanabi stopped them, saying, "I'd like 5 of you to remain." She then turned to face the clones and pointed to one, saying, "Go tell the others by the river to dispel. I think we did enough for today." The clone nodded and ran off. "I'd like to test you 5 in a sparring match," the girl said, taking a stance. "I'd like to test both your and my abilities." 9 of the clones dispelled, while the other 5 were staring at her with curiosity. With a nod, the clones assumed a modified form of the Hyuga fighting stance and charged towards the girl. Hanabi was walking to the location where she had last seen Naruto and Jiraiya that day after a short while. When she got there, she noticed Jiraiya looking sheepish and an enraged Naruto asking, "What happened?" The young girl remarked, "I saw the toad earlier and saw Naruto yelling from the top of his head." With his teeth clenched, Naruto described how Jiraiya had taken him to a canyon and told him that the only way to survive was to call for a toad, which miraculously appeared to save the blonde boy's life. After learning of the careless and foolish strategy, Hanabi chastised the elderly man. This would have been a funny scene if the girl hadn't been training to kill the man by threatening to castrate him for nearly killing her sister. Jiraiya apologized and admitted that she should have found a better way, but it didn't seem to have any impact on the cloak and dagger. Wielding, vengeful blonde. Hyuga. I think we should call it a day before we do anything or say anything we'll regret later. He then took out a big billfold and threw it to Naruto, who caught it without turning around and asked him a question. "You won the bet," Naruto said. Jiraiya said, "Enjoy it, you've been working hard. I ain't a sore loser like my teammate," and he disappeared into a swirl of leaves. After giving Hanabi a quick glance, Naruto said, "Want to get something to eat?" In a monotone, blank voice. Hanabi shrugged and accepted with gratitude. They both arrived at Ichiraku Ramen a little over an hour later, and Naruto and a disguised Hanabi took a seat. When they walked into the store, Ayame smiled and said, "Hello, how are you?" She had been worried about Naruto, who used to visit every day. The boy was sitting in front of her now, his face expressionless and his eyes hollow, hardly able to speak above a mumble and never once mentioning how he was going to become Hokage. The girl prayed every night that her little brother would one day return, but it broke her heart to know that he had fallen this far. She went to the kitchen to prepare their food after taking their orders. "Hanabi," said Naruto, "I never had the chance to inquire, but how is Hiashi not suspicious of you? For the past 2 weeks, you have been sneaking out every day and he hasn't asked you any questions." "My father has been training Neji for the finals," Hanabi said, turning to face Naruto. "Hideyoshi liked Hinata and wanted Neji dead too, so I've been sneaking out with my personal trainer," Hinata said, raising an eyebrow in Naruto's direction. "He usually tells father that we're going to a training ground outside the compound and once we're there and enjoys tea and relaxes while I go off," Hanabi added. Just as she was finishing her statement, their meal arrived. While Hanabi, the devout young woman she wishes she wasn't, ate her ramen more quickly and elegantly, Naruto ate it slowly, seemingly unaware that he was even eating. Following their payment for their food, they head outside. Naruto turned off the outside world and strolled aimlessly while Hanabi stood next to him, listening to the people talking about the fox boy and the demon whore. Hanabi was initially shocked to learn of the 9-tailed fox that was sealed inside Naruto, but she soon came to terms with it since she understood that humans were just as capable of being demons as they were. Her father and Neji being 2 prime examples, and that Naruto wasn't the fox. When they came to a crossroads and split up, Naruto chose to say, "Hanabi, I want to thank you because without your support, I could not have progressed as far as I have. I promise to keep my word to you. You are, after all, incredibly special to me." Not only did Naruto acknowledge her, but Hanabi also noticed something for the first time in a long time, his smile. Little did Hanabi know that this was the first time he had smiled. Hanabi was left stunned. Hanabi blushed and grinned back, saying, "Thank you, Naruto. I know you'll keep your word." Naruto heard her say softly, "After all, that's why Hinata looked up to you and that's why I put my faith in you." For a brief moment, an image of Hinata appeared to him, but it soon vanished, revealing Hanabi once more. Then, under the direction of an unidentified force, Hanabi kissed Naruto on the cheek and turned to leave, making his way back to the Hyuga compound. Naruto turned and walked back to his apartment, feeling once again cold as he touched the spot where she had kissed him, stunned and enjoying the warmth of the gentle peck. Sadly, the warmth vanished as soon as it appeared. He walked into his apartment and fell asleep on his bed in what seemed like a split second. The sound of birds chirping then woke Naruto, and he saw Haku and Kakashi-sensei standing in front of him, with Kakashi's rakery piercing the feminine boy's chest as both turned to face him. Haku said in a chilly, resonant voice, "You are weak, Naruto. True strength comes from protecting those you love. Why did you not listen to me? Naruto, what happened to I won't let my friends perish?" You are worse than trash. You forgot my lesson, Kakashi remarked, spinning his Sharingan. Subsequently, the two figures transformed into blood and assumed the form of Hinata. Naruto, why did you allow me to die? I loved you so much. How could you have let this happen to me? Hinata sobbed, her cheeks streaming with blood. Hinata, I apologize. Naruto broke down in tears as he spoke, I wasn't fast enough. If I had known about your feelings, I would have tried to return them sooner. As soon as he extended his hand to embrace Hinata, she began to turn red. No, no, no. Aku. Please don't leave. Don't leave me again. Naruto yelled, attempting to keep Hinata from breaking free. Naruto started crying uncontrollably as she transformed into a puddle on the ground, the words of the people he had lost and loved severing him like a razor blade. After awakening in a cold sweat and realizing it was just another nightmare, Naruto began to cry. He was crying because he couldn't save Haku and follow his advice. He was crying for Hinata, the girl who had shown him love and then been taken from him right away. He sobbed for what seemed like hours before he glanced at the time. Just 3 hours of sleep, 1 hour longer than the previous time. He then got up, changed into a clean pair of clothes, and spent the next 8 hours strolling around Konoha. Following all, training begins promptly at 6 a.m. Trying to catch his breath, Naruto was kneeling in front of a smoldering crater that had once been a training post. He needed an extra week to perfect the Rasengan, but now he has it, and it will come in very handy when he faces Neji. Hanabi approached Naruto with a different Hyuga scroll not long after he had mastered the Rasengan. On the day they inherit the clan, Hanabi manages to pilfer a main house scroll that contains a secret Hyuga technique that is only known to the heir. Hanabi gave it to Naruto for 2 reasons. First, it might be very useful against Neji, and second, it would be a big fuck you to the Hyuga clan's main house. Naruto consented since he would accept any assistance when confronted with the genius of his time. He has been practicing the technique for the past week, and thanks to his Rasengan mastery, he was able to get it to function flawlessly. Naruto left the training area after catching his breath because he didn't need to exert himself too much before his match the following day. Naruto was by himself, though, as Jiraiya had to attend to some pressing business that did not involve snooping on women, and Hanabi was currently getting ready with her clan to attend tomorrow's finals. As he left the training ground, he sensed the presence of 2 people behind him. Turning around, he saw the stoic and silent Shino and the stunning red-eyed Chunin Kurenai. In a very low voice, Naruto asked, "What do you two want?" "Neji's fate is sealed. If you are here to talk me out of killing him, forget it." Kurenai said in a melancholy voice, "I'm not here to talk you out of it, Naruto." She had been depressed since Hinata's passing and had even been put on suicide watch, with her friends Yugo and Anko keeping an eye on her to make sure she didn't hurt herself. With scorn and venom in her voice, the red-eyed Chunin said, "I want you to try your best to kill that arrogant bastard tomorrow. He took Hinata away from all of us, he doesn't deserve mercy." "Naruto," Shino said, seizing the blonde's attention. "Shikamaru, Sasuke, and I have all agreed to try our best to kill or cripple Neji tomorrow if for some reason you fail to kill him." Shino remarked, "I guess Sasuke takes kin killing personally, which is not surprising given his past." He was particularly adamant. Naruto was shocked to learn that, up until this point, only Hanabi had fully supported his plan of retaliation. However, learning that 4 more people shared his sentiments eased his fears. "Thank you, Shino," Naruto said, advancing to shake the boy's hand. Upon approaching Kurenai to extend the same courtesy, he was seized and enveloped in a tight hug, with the woman pressing his face against her breasts. After letting go, she gave him a cheek kiss and said, "Hinata was lucky to fall in love with a boy. No a man like you," wiping her tears as she turned to leave with Shino. Naruto noticed someone else as he made his way through the village. It was easy to identify her because of her trademark buns. Neji's teammate Tenten stopped Naruto dead in his tracks by moving in front of the youngster. She was certain that Neji could defeat Naruto, but she still wanted to make sure that neither boy killed the other. She tried to persuade Neji, but his conceit made him unaware that he wasn't unbeatable. "Naruto, I know what Neji did was horrible, and I know that he deserves punishment, but killing his isn't the answer," the girl said. Before she could finish, she interrupted herself, "Naruto, please. You said you wanted to be Hokage." That means you would protect the villagers, even those who are less than pleasant. You can't just. With brown eyes meeting icy blue, Naruto said, I don't care about being Hokage, as he looked at the girl. I don't give a damn about winning, about exams, or even about passing away. With a cruel, chilling smile on his face, Naruto stated, all that matters is that Neji Hyuga dies tomorrow and Hinata can rest in peace knowing her murder died by my hands. The blonde boy walked past Tenten and onto his destination, and she felt a chill run up her spine. Approaching his goal, Naruto paused again as he turned around and saw the insane sand wielder Gaara in person. Uzumaki, replied the boy with red hair. I see in your eyes that we're alike, both of us are alone, both of us have suffered and both of us are going to kill to prove our existence. After hearing him speak, Naruto chuckled lowly, catching the boy's attention. I'm not killing to prove my existence, Gaara, he said, honoring the memory of someone he loved but who was taken from him before he had a chance to love her and who was killed by a person who was free to roam the streets. Naruto turned around and started to leave. Gaara, if you wish to kill someone for someone, he said. Kill for someone you love, because it will make you stronger to fight for someone you care about. Even if it's only their recollection, Naruto remarked, recalling what Haku had said. Gaara, on the other hand, heard what Naruto had to say and considered for a moment whether he might be correct before vanishing into a whirlwind of sand. After arriving at his destination without any further delays, Naruto knelt before Hinata Hyuga's tomb. To make sure she doesn't lose the one thing she was born with, her name, Naruto, with Hanabi's consent and a deft hand, carved her last name into the gravestone, which initially just said Hinata. Hanabi told Naruto that these two items were her favorites. He reached into his jacket pocket and took out a bouquet of white lilies, placing them in front of her grave along with a single homemade cinnamon roll. Hinata, Naruto said, tomorrow is the day. Placing his hand on her grave, he said, the day I beat Neji, the day I avenge you, and the day that will mark the beginning of the downfall of the Hyuga clan. I'm sorry I was such a blind fool. If I focused on you instead of Sakura we could have, Hanabi. Your sister, she's been helping be trained to fight Neji. She even made that cinnamon roll for you, Naruto said before he started to choke on his words. She apologizes for not being able to visit you personally. Your idiotic father has forbidden it. Don't worry, he will receive his soon enough. Naruto got up and started wiping the tears from his face, saying, Hinata. Naruto replied, I love you too, and then he turned to leave for his apartment. When Naruto arrived at his flat, he saw a package in front of his door. Upon closer examination, he discovered a note taped to the side, which he opened to reveal, Dear Naruto, tomorrow is the day we've been training for more than a month. Please wear these. I can't watch you fight in those orange monstrosities you call clothes. Regards, Hanabi. When Naruto opened the note, she drew a small chibi Hanabi with two peace signs, which, even for a mature girl like her, surprised him. Naruto laughed merrily as he walked into his apartment. An hour later, as he was getting ready for bed, he was mentally getting ready for the day that would be either his or Neji's last. For the first time in more than a month, Naruto slept soundly that night without experiencing nightmares of the people he had loved and lost. The Chunin exam stadium the following day. With the exception of Naruto Uzumaki, all of the contestants were standing in a row in front of a cheering crowd, and the place was electric with anticipation. I guess your teammate had more sense than I thought, Neji said in an arrogant voice as Sasuke was wondering, where was Naruto? Did something happen to him? Well, if he doesn't show then I guess I'll be the one to have the honor of putting you down, Sasuke sneered as he turned to face Neji. Even though he had never met the Hyuga girl, Sasuke was furious to learn that Hinata had been killed. He took the idea of one clan member murdering another personally. A recognizable voice said, I'm going to be the one to take him down. I don't think so, Sasuke. As the competitors pivoted, it was quite the sight to see that Naruto was dressed entirely in black combat pants, a dark purple hoodie and brand new black sandals. The announcer Gemma announced, okay, first match Neji Hyuga vs. Naruto Uzumaki. Everyone else go up to the waiting area, before anyone could remark on the new outfit. Naruto stopped Sasuke before he could go, saying, Hey Sasuke, could you hold my jacket? The Uchiha nodded. He was shocked to see what was underneath Naruto's jacket when he took it off, a form-fitting white shirt that flaunted his muscles and what appeared to be bandages running from his elbows to his wrists. Neji smirked at Naruto as soon as the field was clear, saying, Well loser, you ready to embarrass yourself? Naruto gave no reaction. HMPH. Too afraid to speak? Neji attempted to agitate the boy by saying, I'm not surprised even a dunce like you would know when you're outmatched, but as soon as he saw the boy's face, his smirk vanished. A face completely focused, devoid of emotion. Neji, however, dismissed this as bluster. The blonde boy raised his hand in the air and said, Okay, both contestants prepare for battle, surprising Gemma with his lack of reaction. Neji then dropped into the fighting stance of his clan. The Hyuga clan and Neji were both shocked and enraged when Naruto suddenly assumed his new fighting stance. What the hell? What is that stance? The boy exclaimed, watching as Naruto assumed the same pose with his hands palms down and his fingers spread wide. How did you steal our clan's taijutsu? The boy asked. And why is that stance so bastardized, huh? Neji was furious and yelled, Answer me goddammit. Naruto, though, said nothing. The Hyuga main house was inconsolable up in the stands over his ability to mimic their taijutsu. In the meantime, Hanabi was eagerly anticipating the battle. She didn't have to worry about being discovered because the scrolls she had taken were ancient and meant to be destroyed, but she had replaced them with blanks before they were burned. Since no one will argue that someone who picks up trash on the street cannot keep it, Naruto could simply claim he found them somewhere and avoid being accused of stealing. She grinned at how the clan would respond to Naruto tearing apart, Go Naruto, as she giggled inwardly at how he could create such a mess out of something as basic as utilizing her family's stance. She waited impatiently for the slaughter to begin, thinking, fulfill your promise to me. Gemma shouted, Okay, let the first round of the final exam begin, disregarding the Hyuga's tirade. He then dropped his arm and leapt back to escape the impending brawl. Naruto launched 3 kunai at Neji as soon as the match was announced to begin, but Neji easily avoided the 3 projectiles. Neji chose to charge directly at Naruto in an effort to end the battle as soon as possible. Without missing a beat, Naruto went on the defensive, blocking blows that were first intended for his heart and then for his liver. The 2 boys engaged in a physical altercation, with Neji attempting to hit Naruto and Naruto deflecting every blow Neji threw at him. Then, expecting his blonde opponent to launch an attack, Neji broke the deadlock by leaping backwards. To his surprise, Naruto was staying put. Why don't you make an attack? Neji mockingly remarked, You afraid your weak attempts will be thwarted by my superior skill? Naruto, however, merely remained motionless and didn't even acknowledge Neji's words. Naruto threw 3 more kunai at Neji, who again sidestepped the attack as they flew into the concrete wall behind him, startling him out of his reverie and leaving him wondering why his taunts weren't having the desired effect on the boy. Naruto charged at Neji as soon as the kunai struck the wall, and he instantly activated his Byakugan while waiting for the boys to attack. He didn't have to wait long because Neji was struggling during the second boy. On. Boy brawl. Every strike he deflected tore off pieces of the bandages covering his arms and tore at his clothes, giving him the impression that he was being stung by fire ants. Although there was no direct contact during any of the attacks, the boy was aggravated by the pain from the blocks and near misses. To Neji's surprise, Naruto abandoned the attack and jumped backwards, hurling 3 more kunai, which Neji managed to avoid, causing the blades to strike the wall behind him. You really gotta try something. Neji started until something stung in his back. When he turned around, he saw 2 kunai and another Naruto with his hand outstretched on the wall. Neji then reached around his back and took out 3 shuriken. Naruto had used a clone to throw shuriken into Neji's blind spot, shattering his sense of security, and now the overconfident Neji was grinning. How could he be aware of the blind spot of the Byakugans? Neji thought in terror, it's supposed to be a secret, as his adversary had managed to discover the Byakugan's greatest vulnerability. The spectators' reactions in the stands were very different. An ordinary villager was curious as to how the demon child was defeating a member of a noble clan. Sakura, Ino, Choji, and Kiba were wondering what had become of the blonde they used to know. Sasuke and Gaara were fascinated and wanted to challenge each other to a duel to see who could be the stronger of the 2. And the Hyuga clan was horrified that the secret of their perfect eyes had been disclosed and was now public knowledge. But Hanabi was mentally smirking and doing cartwheels. She knew that revealing the Byakugan's secret to Naruto would be beneficial because the boy was capable of devising cunning and unconventional plans. From his vantage point above the Hokage box, Hiruzen was impressed with how the fight was unfolding. Neji, who was predicted to win by a landslide, was being outwitted and outclassed by someone he considered to be a failure. Lord Hokage, you had an intriguing harvest of genin this year. Particularly that blonde boy. Tamari told me he was loud and annoying, but I get the impression that Gaara is more bloodthirsty than he is, stated the case cage. One of the girls that Neji killed was his own cousin. With her last breath, she confessed her love for Naruto, which caused something inside the boy to snap, Hiruzen remarked, keeping his focus on the fight. Naruto. With a heart full of concern for his grandson, Hiruzen thought, I hope that this will be the end of the dark path you have started down. Naruto, understanding Neji's suffering, charged to resume hand. 2. Hand fighting. Neji started to spin as he delivered the opening blow. Just as Naruto's hand was about to reach Neji, he started to use the 8. Trigram palm rotation. As a result, Naruto was blown back, crashing into the wall before quickly getting his bearings and charging again with the same strategy. Neji started using the rotation once more, not realizing that Naruto was getting ready to breach the Hyuga's supposedly perfect defense in the process. Naruto created a Rasengan with his right hand and slammed the attack into the spinning dome. Before the dome encircling Neji buckled under the pressure, a loud screeching sound reverberated throughout the arena, sending Neji flying after being struck in the stomach. Naruto turned to look at his hand, which had at least 3 dislocated fingers, minor burns, and was bleeding. Neji stood up, his clothes smoking, and his stomach covered in a fist-sized spiral burn pattern. My rotation slowed the attack enough where it only damaged me a little, Neji reasoned as he glanced at Naruto, who was in the process of realigning his dislocated fingers. Neji was disturbed when Naruto turned to face him, looking at him with his same hollow eyes and blank stare. Naruto had to be in some pain, but the boy didn't even flinch, while Neji shuddered at the sound of his fingers popping. Neji then charged the blonde boy once more, intending to strike the boy's windpipe with purpose. Even if Naruto survives this blow to his windpipe, Neji hopes to distract him long enough for him to be hit by another blow. Naruto made a spearing motion with his right hand towards his throat, and to Neji's surprise, he made no attempt to dodge. Neji felt his fingers touch something then, but he wasn't sure where he touched. At the last second, Naruto turned his head and used his teeth to grab his fingers. Then, with a savage and icy expression, he began to bite down. Neji, seeing his ring and pinky fingers missing from his right hand, screamed in agony. The crowd was horrified by the savage action taken and repulsed by what they witnessed when Naruto disrespectfully stepped on Neji's severed fingers and spat them on the ground. Among the masses, Sakura was terrified of her teammate now, Shoji was paralyzed with fear, Ino was vomiting on the ground, Kiba looked pale, Sasuke and Kakashi were alarmed by Naruto's actions, and Gaara was grinning because she was impressed with his strategies. The stoic head of the clan, Hiashi Hyuga, was displaying a wide range of emotions, including fear, horror, disgust, and panic as he was made to watch his nephew being disfigured by the demon brat in front of his entire village and clan. Hiashi wondered if there was any way to save his nephew in the honor of the clan, thinking to himself, I should have killed that brat after he was born. Once Neji's screams subsided, he turned to face Naruto and said, You're a monster. Naruto once again did not reply, saying, I'm going to finish this now. How did he learn the 64 palms? It's reserved for main branch members only, Hiashi thought as Neji assumed a stance that Hiashi recognized. Neji charged at Naruto and launched his attack, yelling, 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, and 64 palms, as Naruto kicked him back after all of his strikes missed. Neji stood up, sensing his body about to collapse, and turned to face Naruto as an odd red chakra began to form in his hands. When Hiruzen realized what was going on, she was horrified to see that Naruto was channeling the fox's chakra, but she was powerless to stop him unless the boy went insane. After concentrating the chakra into his palm, Naruto started to form and compress it until it took on a form that terrified the survivors of the 13-year ago attack. Hanabi was overjoyed to see Naruto employing the method she had assisted him in developing. She was also pleased to recall the moniker he had chosen for it when it was finished, Uzumaki's secret art, Twin Fox Fist, which she recalled with a glint of admiration in her eyes. With the fox's chakra and form fully on his hands, Naruto charged at Neji, who tried to block the blow but was shocked to see the strike cleave through his arm and cauterize the wound. The second blow struck him in the chest before he could process what had happened, as Naruto punched through him, elbow deep in his chest cavity. Now that Neji was beginning to lose consciousness, he stared into the icy, cold eyes of his murderer. Naruto, on the other hand, stared back into his emotionless, lavender, pupilless eyes and, without saying a word, tore his hand from Neji Hyuga's chest, allowing the boy to fall to the ground lifeless. Not only was there no cheering or applause, but the referee did not even try to call the match. Silently and abruptly, Naruto vanished amidst a whirl of foliage. With tears in her eyes, Hanabi fled up in the stands, and Hiashi, still frozen where he had been watching his nephew's lifeless body lie in a puddle of his own blood, did not try to stop her. Faster than anyone could see, Hiruzen made a shadow clone to take his place while he went looking for Naruto. Gemma finally says, Neji Hyuga has passed away. Naruto Uzumaki emerged victorious, and after a 30-minute intermission, the matches will resume. Konoha Cemetery. Hanabi found the blonde boy and asked, Naruto, in a voice that sounded more like her sister's than her own. Naruto stood motionless in front of Hinata's grave. Hanabi, I succeeded. I took his life. I carried out my promise to avenge Hinata. With tears streaming down his cheeks, Naruto turned to face the younger girl and asked, so why does it hurt so bad? Why am I not feeling better? He cracked a smile as he asked, why is Hinata still dead? He then went to his knees, saying, oh my god, what have I done? He exclaimed, oh god, oh god, oh god, as his misery increased. Oh my, Hinata. I'm so happy you're not present at this moment. Now, in full tears, Naruto exclaimed, oh god, Hinata, I'm so sorry. Oh Hinata, you should be so embarrassed of me right now. Naruto cried uncontrollably while lying on the ground in a fetal position. Hanabi and Naruto were unaware that they had a viewership. Jiraiya watched his grandson sob and say, Naruto, I'm sorry, while shedding silent tears. Perched atop a rooftop, Hiruzen gazed down at his grandson's shattered form and said, Minato, Kushina, I'm sorry. I let you two down. He broke not because of the village but because of himself. Gaara watched the blonde boy with his sand eye, and it brought back memories of the nights he spent sobbing over a loved one who had left him. After canceling the jutsu, he opened his eyes and faced Temari and Kankuro, who initially appeared terrified before becoming perplexed by their psychotic brother's dejected expression. Temari, Kankuro, we ain't going through with it, he said to them. Let's go, Gaara said, enveloping the two teenagers in a whirlwind of sand and vanishing, leaving Shino and Shikamaru perplexed in her wake. Sasuke felt a stab of emotion through his heart as he watched his blonde teammate. He hated and plotted revenge against his brother Itachi for the most of his life. After taking revenge on the girl he loved, Naruto was left in a sob. Worthy mess. After observing his teammate, Sasuke thought to himself, is it worth it? As he started to make his way to the deserted Uchiha compound. Naruto wept uncontrollably until he felt a warm sensation touch his cheek and he raised his head to meet the weeping Hanabi's eyes. You only did what you did because you kept your promise, she said in a gentle, consoling voice. Hinata wouldn't be ashamed of you. She looked into his eyes and stroked his whiskered cheeks, saying, you kept your promise to me. What Hinata cherished most about you was that you kept your word. She said, that is also what I love most about you, as she slowly moved forward to plant a kiss on Naruto's bleeding lips. As she withdrew, Naruto turned to face her, startled. Now that you've promised me something, Naruto, it's my turn to fulfill it. Hanabi concluded, I swear to you that from now on and even in the afterlife, I will always love you, comfort you, and if necessary, fight for you. Then, he looked into his eyes again, seeing a warm, vibrant color instead of an icy tint. For the first time in months, Naruto grinned with genuine happiness, and the girl buried her head in his bruised chest. For what felt like an eternity, Naruto and Hanabi stood there. They were startled out of their reverie as they turned to face the stadium, the original location. As soon as Hiruzen received the information from the clone he had used to take his place, he understood the gravity of the situation. Without any delay, Hiruzen scared both Hanabi and Naruto by suddenly appearing in front of them. Jiraiya then appeared shortly after. Hiruzen said, Jiraiya, Naruto. Orochimaru is attacking the leaf. I require both your help. The boy immediately took the special chakra pill that Hiruzen threw to him. Naruto clones a few people and henges them. Hiruzen gave Naruto the order them to take young Hanabi to the bunkers. Naruto followed through. After leaving the area, Hanabi turned to face Naruto and silently prayed for him, As Naruto watched Hanabi and his clones retreat, he promised himself once more, "I'll come back for you, my love." Then he turned to face the two older men ahead of him, following them into the conflict that would decide the future of his village. Jiraiya, Hiruzen, and Naruto were racing through Konoha to get to the stadium, which was a different kind of battleground only a few minutes before. The sprint to the stadium was a blur. Although it took Naruto 15 minutes to get there from the cemetery, it seemed like only a few seconds. The journey was only interrupted to eliminate an enemy, such as by eliminating a group of ambushers in one location or preventing a girl from being killed in another. When they arrived at the stadium, everything was in complete chaos. Foreign shinobi, leaf, sound, and sand were all engaged in a bloody and disorienting battle. After quickly refocusing, Hiruzen guided Jiraiya and Naruto to the last place his clone was before it was destroyed. As the three-leaf nins arrived at the roof above the cage box, they turned to face Orochimaru and the Sound Four. The blondes were drawn to Naruto. "Hiruzen," as he said, "you take on Orochimaru's soldiers. Jiraiya and I will take care of Orochimaru ourselves, so keep them busy." Hiruzen said, and the blonde nodded before conjuring up roughly 50 clones that were ready to attack the four teenage ninjas. At that moment, Hiruzen tore off his robes to reveal his ancient battle armor, and Jiraiya assumed a fighting stance. The world froze for a brief moment, and then chaos broke out on that small patch of roof. With his clones in tow, Naruto charges in a flurry of hand 2. Hand fighting and jutsu. In contrast to his fight with Neji, the original Naruto was facing a big boy with an orange mohawk. Although he would have preferred to use a jutsu against the boy, he had to use his chakra sparingly because this wasn't going to be a 10-minute match with a referee and a timeout after the match. The mohawk boy fell to follow through to his gut that made him gasp for air as he was struck by Naruto. Jirobo thought, "This little shit is better than he looks," as he turned to face the onslaught of an ever-expanding group of clones. The original Naruto went on to create another 50 clones after half of them were destroyed. Jirobo had no choice but to activate his curse seal and set it to level 2, not wanting to use its full potential because he needed to assist his master in defeating Jiraiya and the Hokage after this battle with the blonde runt was over. While Hiruzen engaged Orochimaru at medium and close range with his extendable, the Hanged Monkey King Enma, Jiraiya was using long-range fire jutsu to throw him off balance. Jiraiya was giving this battle his all because he was determined to make up for the error he committed 11 years prior when, after his master was unable to stop Orochimaru, he attempted to bring the man back to life but was unsuccessful. He no longer sees his opponent when he looks at Orochimaru. Instead, he sees a ruthless creature who is trying to prolong his life by terrible, illegal means. Although he was keeping the four ninja occupied, Naruto was becoming increasingly frustrated with his fight and the outcomes he was hoping for. He glanced at his grandfather and master for a split second, seeing Orochimaru preparing to stab Hiruzen as they lunged towards one another. In a flash of speed and desperation, Naruto raced over to the two men. He formed fox fists and charged his arms with the fox's chakra. Orochimaru had spent years plotting and preparing for this moment, and he was just inches away from killing his master. A flash of red appeared in the corner of his eye as he prepared to pierce his sensei with his kusanagi blade, and then excruciating pain shot through his body. With perfect timing, Naruto severed Orochimaru's arm just below the elbow with his fox fist, sending the limb to fall to the ground while it was still holding the sword. Using the opportunity, Naruto swung his second fist at Orochimaru, who avoided it just in time to only sustain a minor cut across his abdomen. Leaping back, disengaged from the battle, Orochimaru attempted to use his regrowth just you, only to be horrified to find that it was ineffective. His limb had vanished. The snake Sannin hissed, "You little shit, what did you do? Why am I not getting better?" Next, with a furrowed brow, Naruto focused on saying, "I'm not sure." "But that's fantastic news for us," Naruto remarked, and Hiruzen laughed, seeing the Naruto he knew and loved for the first time in a long time. While this was going on, Orochimaru was not amused because he only had one option: Jirobo, Kimimaru, Tayuya, sack and retreat. The Sannin shouted, "We're cutting our losses," as two of his ninjas grabbed him and carried him off. Hiruzen interrupted Jiraiya and Naruto as they were about to charge after, saying, "Orochimaru isn't the priority, the village is still swarming with Suna and Ado shinobi," before they could object. "Create as many clones as you can, Naruto, then eliminate them." He pointed to a big, three-headed snake that was currently destroying the village gates and said, Jiraiya head out to deal with those. The boy and the old man swore momentarily, then followed orders. I promise you that you will pay for your actions today, Hiruzen said, glancing at Orochimaru's retreating form. As he dove into the stadium to assist in clearing out the enemy forces, Hiruzen considered this. Konoha. Council chambers, 2 days later. Hiashi and Naruto exchanged a look in the dead silence of the chambers. In front of Naruto were 5 scrolls bearing the Hyuga clan crest, though they were so old that they were hardly visible. The shinobi clans, with the exception of the Hyuga, were observing the boy with neutrality as none of them had any animosity toward him, while the civilian council was incensed that the demon brat, who had murdered a revered member of a noble clan, was still alive. Uzumaki, when did you take these scrolls? Looking at the boy who killed his nephew, Hiashi, barely able to contain his rage, said, If you tell me, I'll assure you your punishment will not be as severe. Naruto remarked, I didn't steal them, you bastard, as several clan heads laughed and Hiashi's rage increased. Hiashi, whose patience was wearing thin, asked, So how did you get them? I obtained them by rescuing a voluptuous blonde princess from a demon king's stronghold by infiltrating through his plumbing system, Naruto uttered, causing Hiashi's eye to quiver and Hanabi, who was seated beside him, to glare at him. Then after I saved her, I took over to a brunette princess's castle and proceeded to have a big hero's threesome, finished Naruto. Kiba and Hana, Sume Inuzuka's kids, started laughing. Inoichi Yamanaka also laughed until an enraged Ino struck him in the head. Both Shikamaru and Shikaku Nara scratched their heads, feeling that the entire situation was pointless. To everyone's surprise, Shibi Aburame and Shino both laughed heartily because, unbeknownst to others, they were both hard fans of the video game that Naruto used to explain his blatantly made up story. As soon as Hanabi got up and yelled, And how dare you accept sexual payment in return for doing your job, and with 2 members of royalty no less, everyone, including the Hokage, laughed at the girl's statement. Hiashi, seeing red, got up and yelled, That is a goddamn lie. As she performed the part of the prim and proper spoiled princess that her father believed her to be, Hanabi was secretly laughing. She was laughing because Naruto was talking about a video game that, since she didn't have the luxury of playing games under her father's roof, she had to admit to playing in the safety of Naruto's apartment. Hiashi cast a cold stare at the boy, oblivious to everything else going on. I acquired them from an exercise area. You're going to arrest me for taking trash home? They were abandoned, so it was fair game. Naruto smirked at Hiashi, who was at a loss for words. Then Hiruzen spoke up. Hiashi, it's true. As Hiashi turned to face Hiruzen, those scrolls are so faded and damaged that it seems like they were left in unfavorable conditions for long periods of time, so if they were abandoned in a training ground, Naruto had every right to take them. It's the same as retrieving a dropped kunai or an overlooked training target. At that moment, Hiashi stood up straight, yelling, This is an outrage, and gesturing for his daughter to follow him. Before turning to leave, Hanabi gave Naruto a phony furrowed expression and said, This isn't over, Uzumaki, using all the hate in her voice that she could muster. Naruto kissed Princess Hanabi and said, You look cute when you're angry. Subsequently, Hanabi, HMPHED, while turning to walk alongside her father. Later, at the Hyuga compound. Father, Hanabi started by saying, I need to up my training. That plebeian beat Neji, then I obviously need more training if I'm going to kill him for disgracing our clan. Hiashi replied, Yes, Hanabi, appreciating her rage and determination. I'll tell Hideyoshi to step up your training schedule and give him more advanced material for you to learn, Hiashi said. Hanabi turned around and bowed, saying, Thank you, father. I'm heading to my room. Hanabi grinned as she walked into her room and made a shadow clone that sat on the bed before Hanabi vanished in a cloud of smoke. The apartment of Naruto after 10 seconds. Hanabi got the memories of her clone while she and Naruto were playing a cooperative video game. I'm so glad I learned that jutsu from you. Sucks I can only make 3 at a time, she grinned and turned to face Naruto. The girl was reassured by Naruto, who leaned down to kiss her cheek and said, Don't worry, you'll be able to create more with time and practice. Heizo decided to intensify my training. Even a shadow clone that kicks him in the ass cannot even fool a man with all seeing eyes. Sitting on Naruto's lap, Hanabi spoke while he caressed her hair. Naruto hugged the girl and said, Good after all, we'll need to be stronger for what comes next. Hanabi, have you found any supporters? He asked, to which Hanabi nodded. I got Tetsuo, the clan's head of security, Hideyoshi, Natsu, and Hitomi. As she tucked into the hug, she uttered, everyone despises Hiashi and harbors personal grudges against the main branch. A side branch member and 3 members of the main branch? Hanabi giggled in response to Naruto's statement, damn, Hiashi knows how to make enemies. After picking Hanabi up and they both climbed into bed together, Naruto remarked, it's getting late, better go to bed, you got training to sneak off to tomorrow. Good night, Naruto, Hanabi said, resting her head on his arm while donning the panda nightcap that Naruto had purchased for her to match his own. As he fell asleep, Naruto said, good night, my princess. Hanabi stayed up late, watching Hiashi. Before falling asleep with her secret lover, Hanabi thought, this isn't over by a long shot. Soon you'll be nothing but a footnote. Late at night, 4 months after the Chunin exams, at Uchiha compound. Before the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke Uchiha was a typical member of his brotherhood. He was conceited, haughty, and extremely stubborn. He vowed to exact revenge and rebuild the Uchiha clan ever since his brother massacred his clan. He was thinking about getting even as he lay on the roof of his home in the long, abandoned Uchiha compound. He expected Neji Hyuga to die on the day of the finals. In fact, Shino, Shikamaru, and he all agreed to kill the boy in the event that Naruto failed. The final Uchiha, though, began to doubt his desire for vengeance after witnessing the brutality of Neji's death and Naruto's subsequent breakdown. Naruto killed Neji because he was jealous of a girl he had broken up with only a month earlier. Despite his brief harboring of this hatred, he eventually lost it and broke down. When Sasuke finally killed Itachi, he always thought he would feel happy, so he sighed and wondered if he would feel that way. The image that most stuck in his memory was of Naruto collapsing into a massive ball of tears while lamenting the fact that Hinata would be embarrassed of his behavior. What would his mother think of his desire for vengeance? Would he make her feel guilty? Would she hate him for squandering his life to retrieve an irreplaceable item? Then he thought back on the events of the previous few months. Flashback. 2 weeks following the test. Sasuke was on his way to rendezvous with Kakashi, as they have been honing their fighting skills. Only a few days prior, Sasuke had congratulated Naruto on his promotion to Chunin, which was understandable given that he was the only other genin to win a match in the exam and that no one else had taken part in the invasion, which began 15 minutes after the match ended and the 3 sand ninja had vanished before the invasion began with no reports of them during the battle. To everyone's surprise, Sasuke did not display his typical short fuse and jealousy, but instead shook Naruto's hand and congratulated the blonde. He was shocked to see Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai at the candy store that Kakashi had directed him to. With a smile on his eyes, Kakashi said, Sasuke, nice to see you. But unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone our training to another day. He then swiftly disappeared with the other 2 Junin into a whirl of leaves. Curious about what was happening, Sasuke followed the 3 of them to their destination. When he got there, he witnessed 2 ninjas wearing red cloud cloaks and Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai engaged in combat. He recognized the second man as Itachi Uchiha and felt his blood boil at the sight of the tall blue man brandishing a large sword. As Sasuke prepared to charge Itachi with a Chidori, he hid in a nearby tree. He was having visions of the broken boy and was unsure of what to do when suddenly flashes of Naruto entered his mind. He heard a spine-tingling scream and saw Kakashi fall to his knees as Itachi turned to face him, shaking the visions from his head. Aware of every possible attack angle and the fact that they were floating on water, he composed himself and came up with a strategy. Then, with just 1 shot remaining, Sasuke used his 2 Tomo Sharingans to activate the curse mark that Orochimaru had given him. Kisame called out to the clan slayers, "Hey Itachi," grabbing their attention and saying, "These guys don't know anything, let's just kill them and find the brat already." But Itachi was only giving Kisame half of his attention. Itachi, blindsided by his brother's ignorance, thought, "You can't conceal your presence from me, little brother." He felt Sasuke's familiar presence behind him, ready to strike. Itachi said in a monotone, bored voice, "Okay, Kisame, finish them off and let's get going." He also turned off his Sharingan to avoid straining his eyes further. Itachi heard the familiar sound of a Chidori as Kisame charged at the 3 Junin, and once Sasuke got close enough, he was ready to block said strike. Itachi turned to see his brother for the first time in a long time when he caught the lightning jutsu, but all he saw was a flash of light that went by his peripheral vision. He heard the sound of water rushing and an impact the next moment, Turning around, Itachi saw something that startled him. Sasuke was standing behind Kisame, his hand protruding from his chest, making it clear that he was targeting Kisame rather than Itachi. Kisame stared dumbly at the hand sticking out of his chest, wondering how he had allowed this to happen. This resulted from a brief moment of bloodlust and poor judgment. His body grew cold, and he experienced blurred vision. This was the end for him. A covert attack from behind is what ends him, not a heroic deed or a brilliant display of brilliance. The sight of blood, the sensation of living flesh around his arm, and the curse mark he activated to increase the power and speed required to perform the move all combined to give Sasuke a brief moment of disgust as he killed his first man. Sasuke was trying to fight the urge to throw. The tall blue man stumbled forward and fell to the bottom of the river they were standing on as soon as he released his hand. Asuma Sarutobi has been a shinobi for a long time and has seen things that have shocked him, but a genin named Sasuke Uchiha just used a sneak attack to take out a S-class criminal. He needed the young boy to move aside because he was clearly shocked by what he was seeing. Asuma yelled, "Sasuke, move your ass," as it shook the boy out of his daze and appeared in front of him in a matter of seconds. Asuma turned to face Itachi, who was equally astounded by what had happened and had not moved to stop or even kill Sasuke. Then, Asuma witnessed Kakashi, who was still on his knees, fall forward before Sasuke caught him. Then Kurenai said, "Sasuke." After Itachi heard Kakashi, take him to the hospital and tell him not to look back. She was expecting the boy to decline in some way, so she was taken aback when he simply nodded before shouldering Kakashi and taking off. "Sasuke!" yelled to Itachi as he started to run forward, but Asuma blocked his way and avoided Kurenai projectiles, forcing Itachi to engage in combat. "Sasuke, why didn't you try to kill me?" Itachi thought to himself, this isn't going to plan, and turned back to his fight. Konoha Medical Center after an hour. With a defiant mental outburst, "Damn it, I had him." Sasuke was pounding his fist against the wall. "I was able to murder Itachi. Why didn't I run at him?" Sasuke exclaimed. His sudden outburst startled Kurenai, Asuma, and Guy, who all turned to stare at him worriedly. Before anyone could inquire, he left the hospital. Flashback concludes. Sasuke came to the realization that everything that had happened recently, ignoring Itachi, Naruto returning with Tsunade Senju, the person who was supposed to be the next Hokage, had taken a toll on him. In fact, Naruto, who was his closest friend, felt comfortable enough to talk to him about his anguish over getting his revenge. Perhaps Naruto was correct. Perhaps he should try to move on and, rather than seeking revenge, honor his parents by leading a decent life rather than choosing a route that will only result in suffering and destruction. 4 figures suddenly materialized in front of him, startling him out of his reverie and forcing him into a combat stance as he got ready to face the unknown intruders. Asking a boy with an odd growth growing out of his back, "Sasuke Uchiha?" Sasuke answered in a voice that concealed his surprise, "Yeah. Lord Orochimaru have sent us here to bring you to him." The kid replied, "You interest our master and we believe he wishes to recruit you." With narrowed eyes, Sasuke asks the boy, "Why would I abandon my village?" In a cautious manner. Sasuke became interested in the boy when he replied, "Power. Power to kill your brother, exact revenge on your clan, and realize all of your dreams." Sasuke gave the boy a startled, powerful look. "Kill Itachi," he thought to himself, allowing the words to wander. Sasuke had an epiphany all of a sudden as everything that had happened to him, including Naruto's breakdown, his decision not to kill Itachi, and his reevaluation of his life, all came to light in one moment. He was done wanting retribution. With a "no" in his eyes, Sasuke answered the boy. The 4 ninja were taken aback by this one word since Kabuto had told them all that the boy would take power because killing his brother was his only ambition in life. He declines Orochimaru's offer of power now. A boy with an orange mohawk yelled, "What do you mean no? You reject our lord's offer of power," a brown-skinned boy with 6 arms said. "I don't want retribution, so I don't want power." Sasuke remarked, "I don't want that. I saw the aftermath." Before any of the 4 ninja could reply, he resumed his speech. He caught them off guard when he said, "How about I make you a deal? A girl with red hair and a beanie." Like Hat yelled, "What kind of fucking deal could you offer us, asshole? Once we take off your seals, you can leave Orochimaru and stay here," Sasuke said, stopping the other 4 people in their tracks. "You won't have to worry about Orochimaru once our seals are removed." Jiraiya, our seal master, can do that. Consider this. You will be free of him, able to make a fresh start and create a life together. I had been blinded by pain and retaliation until recently, but for the first time in a long time, my eyes were opened. I'm willing to do the same to you because you saved me from walking down a dark path. Standing in a non-defensive stance, Sasuke concluded his speech with a sincere tone and a compassionate expression. The four ninjas gasped. Getting their curses erased? Liberty? Was it feasible to accomplish this? They have all been with Orochimaru for years. They have never had a choice or a future, and now this man is giving them the chance to permanently leave that awful life behind. Nice try, kid, but we're Orochimaru's elite guards, we won't be, was Saken's first response. He stopped talking as he mentioned that the girl in the group had begun to approach the boy. Hyuya. Where are you going? Shouted Saken. Ignoring her teammate, Hyuya stopped a short distance in front of her target. Can you really save me from Orochimaru? She asked in a quiet voice that none of her teammates had ever heard. As he watches, tears welling up in her eyes, Sasuke says, yeah. I promise you, Sasuke said, unintentionally repeating what Naruto had done to Hanabi. Turn yourself in and give all the info on Orochimaru and I'll use my clan heir status to give you sanctuary here, he said, extending his hand to the girl. Give her a positive outlook. When Jirobo saw Hyuya leave them, he became enraged and charged, preparing to destroy the two inattentive teenagers, only to be forced back by his ankles. He notices spider webs when he looks at his ankles. Then, in a combat stance, Kidomaru leaps up next to Hyuya and Sasuke. Kid, you better keep your promise because this is going to be a bitch and a half, Kidomaru uttered. With a red face, Saken turns to face his two betraying teammates and says, Kidomaru and Hyuya, you both just dug your own graves. Sasuke was disgusted by what he did next. That strange bump on his back changed into a different version of himself. Hey duck ass, you better get ready, the shit's about to hit the fucking fan like a goddamn tornado in the next couple minutes, Hyuya says, pulling out her flute and bracing herself for battle. The three ninjas that are now in front of Sasuke catch his attention. At that point, Sasuke unleashes his Sharingan and curse mark. Then, to his surprise, all five of the ninjas' curse marks were activated to their final stages. All but Hyuya, he thought, now resembled demons rather than humans. He shook those ideas off quickly and turned his attention back to the battle that would soon take place in the seclusion of his deserted compound. On one side are Sasuke, Hyuya, and Kidomaru. Jirobo, Saken, and Yukon are the others. 3 on 3, the world froze for a moment as each side assumed a battle stance, and Sasuke inhaled steadily and slowly. As soon as he exhaled, both sides charged at one another, each fighting for a future that could be either one of slavery or freedom. Unfortunately, for some, death was in store for them. With their curse marks out, Sasuke, Uchiha, Hyuya, and Kidomaru were staring at Jirobo, Saken, and Yukon, waiting for someone to start the inevitable battle. Sasuke was drawn to Hyuya's comment, duck. Ass, you take on Jirobo. He's the physical combat type. Not wishing to irritate the foul-mouthed girl, Sasuke nodded as she concluded, me and Kidomaru will handle Saken and Yukon from a distance as they have a power that requires physical contact. Sasuke turned his attention to the boy with orange hair who was his opponent as soon as he glanced back at the three opposing ninja. 3 kunai with explosive tags that Sasuke threw out of his holster to start the fight. The 3 kunai burst, scattering the 3 opposing ninja. Saken moved to the right, followed by Hyuya. Yukon moved to the right, Kidomaru pursuing him. And Jirobo leapt backward to make room for the charging Uchiha. When they first faced off in hand-to-hand combat, Sasuke made the decision to test Jirobo. Jirobo discovered that although Sasuke was faster than him, his hits were unimpressive. Nevertheless, by blocking Sasuke's strikes, he could wear down and defeat his opponent. When Sasuke realized his taijutsu would not work, he made the decision to separate and get some distance. After landing a few feet away, he used hand signals to indicate fire style, fireball jutsu, before launching a stream of fire at Jirobo, who then contained the stream with an earthen barrier. Jirobo allowed the fire jutsu to strike his barrier, but Sasuke quickly charged at him and threw shuriken at him, dashing his hopes of respite. He resisted his attack once more, but Sasuke caught him off guard. Jirobo knew he could withstand the blow when Sasuke unleashed 5 small fireballs while signing Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Sadly, Hirobo's conceit got the better of him as every fireball contained a hidden kunai that struck him twice in his right leg, twice in his stomach, and once in his arm, preventing one from striking his heart. As the battle dragged on, Jirobo started to pose more of a threat, so Sasuke cursed. When he saw Jirobo charging at him, he immediately became vigilant. Then he said that Jirobo had punched his fist into the ground and raised a piece of earth, which he threw at Sasuke. After avoiding the piece that was going to rip a hole in his shirt, Sasuke was relieved until he felt Jirobo punch him in the ribs. Sasuke was propelled into the air and crashed through one of his house's windows. When he finally stopped, he began to cough up blood and wheeze. "I think he broke my ribs," thought Sasuke as he stood up, his eyes welling with tears due to the excruciating pain in his ribs. After that, Jirobo broke through the wall, giving Sasuke some time to come up with a plan. Having spent his entire life in this house, he was familiar with every hallway, room, exit, and passageway. For a brief moment, he remembered playing hide and seek with his mother and brother. He ran through the house. Jirobo pursued Sasuke, getting lost in every corner and passageway. He thought the Uchiha ran around him as he rounded a corner and came to a dead end. After giving the boy with orange hair the finger, Sasuke leaned against the wall and started to think of a strategy. Ambush from the rafters, with his injuries, no way would that work. Bring him to the pond and surprise him by ambushing him from below. He is so foolish that he could simply crush the ground, rendering the pond useless. While he was planning his course of action, Sasuke realized that this was a clan head house with secrets that the enemy could never discover. After a few minutes, Jirobo was aimlessly walking around when he heard footsteps and followed them, thinking, "Got you now, you little shit," as he entered what looked to be a sizable assembly room. Sasuke was lying on the ground, panting and injured, in the center. "At last, handsome boy," Jirobo questioned cynically, but Sasuke's laugh cut him off in his tracks. No one had heard Sasuke laugh so hard in years, but he was laughing as if someone had told the greatest joke ever. "You're a dumbass," he smirked as he stopped laughing and met Hirobo's gaze. "A man's home is his fucking castle," Sasuke uttered while creating a hand seal. "Remember this in the afterlife." Then, to Hirobo's surprise, the Uchiha disappeared in a blur. His world went white the next instant. Just in time to see the explosive charges detonate in a spectacular display of fire, Sasuke hit the ground hard outside his home. Sasuke laughed and thought, who would have thought Itachi's little lesson would save my life? Itachi had told him about the Uchiha contingency plan, which included explosive seals placed throughout the house in case of an enemy attack, years prior to the massacre. In addition to creating the seals and hiding them, the fourth Hokage, who was close to his father, also created a teleportation seal that, when used, would teleport the initiator and anybody opposing him to a safe distance, protecting the individual while demolishing the house and any clan secrets. As Sasuke slowly stood up, he was struck again, this time in the stomach. Jirobo was on his last leg, his right arm blown off, his face half destroyed, and his remaining arm struggling to keep his intestines in. He was going to murder this little fucker before he passed away because he had barely survived the blast and knew he wouldn't make it. He then lifted his foot, landed it on Sasuke's chest, breaking the last of his ribs, and grinned as he watched Sasuke cough up blood as his chest gave way. Memories flashed by as Sasuke lay on his back, staring up at the night sky. He gave it his all and grinned nostalgically, ready to pass away. Until he saw Tayuya in one last vision. "Can you do that?" Her voice reverberated in his head. "Can you really save me from Orochimaru?" "I promise," he heard himself say. He told her he couldn't pass away just yet, yelling in his head, "No, no, no." The shock wave that came from the dying boy knocked Jirobo back. He was scared to see his curse mark reach its ultimate stage as he stood up. With his skin now a dark gray, Sasuke now had longer hair and a dark purple color. His Sharingan also changed, taking on a dark gray hue, and he now had 3 toys. When Sasuke finally had enough, he raced to Jirobo and charged a now black Chidori. Unable to see, Jirobo let Sasuke's fist exit through the back of his skull, leaving him impaled through the face with the Chidori. After removing his fist from the now dead Jirobo and letting the body fall to the ground, Sasuke went in search of his 2 new allies. As they engaged in combat with the twins Saken and Yukon, Tayuya and Kitamaru were panting heavily. Because neither side could eliminate the other, they were at a standstill. Tayuya was about to move when she witnessed a massive ball of fire strike Yukon squarely from behind. Saken cried out, "Yukon," as he saw his brother burn and scream in agony before passing away. When he turned to face the source of the jutsu, he was met with a bloody and severely battered Sasuke. Distracted by what she saw, Tayuya missed Saken's move to approach her and merge with her body. Kitamaru, who foolishly became Saken's unfortunate victim by pushing her aside, was the only one who was able to save her at the very last moment. Sasuke was shocked to see Saken had become parasitically attached to Kitamaru and looked at him. "What will you do next, Uchiha?" As Kitamaru struggled to regain control over his body, Saken growled at the two and said, "Tayuya, you wouldn't hurt a comrade, would you?" Kitamaru turned to face Tayuya as he began to lose more control over his body. He said, grabbing Saken's and her attention at the same time, "I'm sorry it has to end like this." Kitamaru looked to Sasuke, Uchiha, and yelled, "I love her more than anything," using the last of his strength to hold Saken and his body in place. "If you don't treat her well, I'll come after you." After receiving the message, Sasuke fled towards Kitamaru and charged a Chidori. Saken, unable to comprehend what was happening, watched in horror as the Uchiha fatally wounded both himself and his previous victim by plunging his Chidori into Kitamaru's chest. As his life was running out, Kitamaru gave Tayuya one last look before everything turned dark. As both the six-armed man and the parasite perished in a pool of blood, Sasuke withdrew his arm from Kitamaru. As the curse mark started to fade, he started to experience unbearable pain throughout his entire body. The mark didn't heal his internal bleeding or his fractured bones. It only treated his immediate, life-threatening wounds. He heard the familiar cry, "Duck! Ass!" as he fell backward and struck the chilly stone walkway before everything went dark. Konoha Medical Center. When Sasuke awoke, his muscles were torn to ribbons and his bones were like powder. He was in excruciating pain. A voice said, "You're awake," and as Sasuke turned, he saw Tsunade. She said, "You've been out for a while." Sasuke asked in a weak, hoarse voice, "How long?" Tsunade finished with her hands on her hips, a week, adding as she picked up a chart that listed her injuries: broken ribs, punctured lung, grade 2 concussion, broken collarbone, hairline fractures on multiple vertebrae, and internal bleeding. "You would have died 10 times over if it weren't for that mark Orochimaru gave you and Tayuya rushing you here," she said in a tone that was too upbeat and unsettling for Sasuke. "Tayuya?" inquired Sasuke. When she said, "She's fine, minor bruising, nothing broken," Sasuke let out a relieved breath. "Once she dropped you off, she surrendered and told us about what you promised," she went on. "She started to tell us about Orochimaru and his bases, even though at first I wasn't sure I believed her. So far, it's been accurate," she remarked, starting to leave the room. "Before being let out, you have to stay here for an additional week," she said as she left, shutting the door. "Don't worry, too. I made sure she got sanctuary and protection for her information. By the way, while you were out, I had Jiraiya remove that curse mark." After relaxing and breathing a sigh of relief, Sasuke went back to sleep, thinking that at least he had saved one. After a week, Sasuke thought back on the events of the previous week as he made his way back to the Uchiha compound. When Naruto visited, Sasuke opened up and said that Naruto inspired him to stray from his path of vengeance. The blonde boy responded that he did the right thing, or else he would have ended up like him. Sakura and Ino also pestered him for a date, to which he didn't even respond. As soon as he arrives at the address of the house he had renovated, since he had blown up his own. When he started to insert his key into the door, Tayuya was frowning at him. "How come it took you so damned long?" Sasuke became anxious when Tayuya yelled, "Geez, can't you move your cripple ass faster? I was waiting for hours." Her yells weren't the pink-haired man's agonizing pain in the ass. "What are you doing here?" Sasuke inquired, perplexed because he assumed he would be residing here. "In a matter of fact manner," Tayuya remarked, "Mega Tits told me that as a new shinobi of this village, my first mission was to babysit your gimp ass until you get better." As he walked inside, Sasuke nodded. Then he took a seat on the adjacent couch. The words, "Okay duck ass," from Tayuya attracted Sasuke's attention. I got some rules if we're living together. 1. I'm not going to give you baths. Take care of that yourself. 2. I'm not going to wipe your ass, so fuck off. And 3. I'm not going to turn into your little fuck toy and go find some other bitch just because you saved me. Any questions? She asked, a hint of murderous intent slipping from her. With an incredibly sly smile that could have rivaled Naruto's, Sasuke nodded his head. Then Tayuya nodded. Okay, wash your fucking hands. I just finished making lunch. She walked to the kitchen and said, hopefully you like rice balls that taste like shit because I only learned how to cook last week. After getting up from the couch, Sasuke went to wash his hands. When he returned to Tayuya after finishing, he noticed her seated at a table with the food. Sasuke laughed a little, attracting Tayuya's attention. What are you laughing at? She asked, looking at the limping Uchiha with a confused expression. Sasuke stopped laughing and gave her a sincere smile while joking around, something he hasn't done in a long time. Honey, I'm back, exclaimed Sasuke as he began to dodge the rice balls that a red-faced Tayuya was hurling in the air. After meeting with Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and the newly appointed 5th Hokage, Tsunade, Naruto was on his way out of the Hokage Tower. There was so much that needed to happen in such a short period of time that his mind was racing. He recognized the scene as soon as he pulled up to his house and opened the door. Hanabi was playing video games once more. Before, Hanabi never had the leisure time or chance to play, but now that she was aware of the shadow clone jutsu and had Naruto's apartment as her secret hideout, she could do as she pleased. Hanabi paused her game as soon as Naruto entered, went to greet her secret lover, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Welcome home, Naru, she exclaimed, before realizing that Naruto had a sad expression on his face and asking, what's wrong? Naruto sighed and said, looks like things are going to get even more difficult, as he started telling his story, staring into her eyes. 2 hours ago, in the past, Hokage's office. Tsunade, seated at her desk with Hiruzen by her side, turned to face Jiraiya and Naruto. I called you two here because I have a mission for the both of you, she uttered in a quiet, soothing voice, drawing their attention. From what information we got from Tayuya, Sasuke has thrown a wrench into Orochimaru's plans as he planned to lure him in with the promise to give him power to kill Itachi, she went on. Without Sasuke he had to take another body. So that leaves us a golden opportunity, she continued. What opportunity? Inquired Naruto, who was unsure of her intended destination. Tsunade replied, he's going to be weaker than normal because it takes a while for him to adjust to the new body. She then went on, shocking the blonde by saying, so our plan is for both of you and Jiraiya to hit him and cut off the head of the snake for good. She shook the blonde out of his reverie and continued, but that's not all. From what Jiraiya was able to fish up, Orochimaru was part of a group called the Akatsuki which seemed to want to hunt down demon containers such as yourself. The blonde gave her a nervous look that she had never seen on his face before. After bracing himself, Naruto answered in a tone that made Hiruzen and Jiraiya shudder. What's the mission, Granny? Which was the same tone he used when he was training to kill Neji. Smirking, Tsunade let the old lady's remark slide as she turned to face Naruto. This is a 3-year mission, she said. In the first year, you will train with Jiraiya and learn how to use Sage Mode for toads. In the second year, you will hunt down and kill Orochimaru, from what I've read in the after action report, you had him running around with his tail between his legs. In the third year, you will hunt down and kill every last member of the Akatsuki clan, she concluded. Naruto gave her a cold, hard glance. He questioned, how strong are those Akatsuki guys? Then Jiraiya said, they're all S-class criminals. Orochimaru defected, and Sasuke killed Kisame when his brother came looking for you, according to what my intelligence told me, so there are 8 members left, Jiraiya said, to which the blonde boy nodded. Don't take them lightly, Naruto. Jiraiya went on. Sasuke might have killed one, but it was a combination of chance, cunning, and dropping his guard. I don't think we'll have that kind of luck, he concluded. After nodding, Naruto turned to face Tsunade and asked, anything else? To which she replied, yes. We contacted both Suna and Taki about the Akatsuki and have agreed to help, she said, catching everyone's attention. Both villages are going to lend their vessels to us in order to help us destroy both the Akatsuki and Orochimaru as long as both train along you. She laughed at Jiraiya's childlike pout in response to her jab, saying, it's a double win for both villages. They both get the targets off their backs and increase their power by having their most powerful assets trained by a Len Gen Dar Y master like Jiraiya. Very well, Naruto asked, nodding in understanding. When do we leave? The busty Hokage said, 1 month. Get your affairs in order and prepare to leave. Naruto saluted and started to leave. Naruto abruptly stopped and hurried out of the room as she spoke, make sure you spend time with your girlfriend Brat. After all, women don't like it when their lovers leave for a long time. Naruto blushed profusely at Tsunade's remark and was relieved he wasn't staring in their direction. Over with the flashback. Hanabi and Naruto were seated together. Naruto was petting Hanabi's hair as she sat on his lap, her head nestled in the hollow of his neck. It seems like we have a month left together before you depart, Hanabi remarked, her voice quivering slightly. Yes, Naruto replied with a hint of sadness. He then raised her head and gave her a look that made her heart skip a beat. But hey, we still got a month, so let's spend it together until the last minute, he said with a smile. Alright, Hanabi said, her face lighting up, before squealing in delight as Naruto raised her into a bridal carry. Hanabi rolled her eyes at her lover's addiction and said, great, let's get some ramen first. And we'll get some banana pudding and milk at that sweet shop you like so much, Naruto replied, to which Hanabi smiled back. After a month. Standing in front of Hinata's grave once more, Naruto and Hanabi did so because it was one of the few locations hidden from prying eyes. With a solemn, "Today's the day," declaration, Hanabi gave Naruto a hug while tears started to stream down her face. As he dried her tears, Naruto answered, "Yeah." Hanabi nodded. "Don't worry, my love. I'll come back, and once I do, we can pick up where we left off." Then Hanabi stood on her tiptoes and gave Naruto a kiss on the lips. "With love," she said. Naruto said, "I love you too," which caused her to smile a little. Hanabi then started to leave without saying anything because she knew that if she spoke, she would start crying uncontrollably. Naruto glanced at Hinata's headstone as he watched Hanabi leave. "Hopefully, Hinata, you can hear me. You can count on me to treat your sister fairly." Naruto placed a single flower on her grave before disappearing into a swirl of leaves. "I also intend to keep the other half of my first promise. I will change the Hyuga clan, but I hope that I can do it without nearly losing myself again." Front doors. When Naruto got to the front gates, he saw Jiraiya standing there and Gaara a short distance away. "Uzumaki," Gaara said with a monotone greeting. "Gaara," Naruto gave a similar greeting in return. A girl with mint green hair then caught Naruto's attention. She ran toward him, grabbed his hands, and gave him a quick shake. "Hello, I'm Fu, the tacky container. It's good to meet you. I hope we can become friends." Her upbeat, bubbly voice caused Naruto to loosen up a little. "My name is Naruto. I'm glad to have met you, Fu, and I do believe we could become friends." When the girl saw that Naruto was responding, she grinned broadly and gave him a firm hug, pressing her breasts close to his, making him blush. Then, as he turned and saw Hanabi lurking behind a phone pole, glaring daggers at the gregarious girl, Naruto felt a wave of malice wash over him. Seeing that a potential catfight was about to break out, Jiraiya interrupted. "Okay people, let's get moving. We got places to go, bad guys to kill, and research to collect," he said, confusing Fu and Gaara while giving him a deadpan look from Naruto. Naruto swiftly turned around as the group started to leave, winking at Hanabi, who flushed at the sight of her lover leaving. Subsequently, she emerged from her hiding spot and walked towards Naruto's apartment, creating a shadow clone to replace her at the Hyuga compound this evening. She pulled open her drawer, pulled on her pajamas and panda nightcap as soon as she got into the apartment and into the bedroom. A package addressed, "From Naru, to Princess," caught her attention as she was getting ready for bed. Her lover's pet name for her made her cringe. She laughed as she opened the package and saw the gift inside, a plush version of Naruto. After reading the note, which said, "Just because I'm gone doesn't mean we can't snuggle," she blushed, crawled into bed, and cuddled up with Naruto, as she fell asleep and started the long wait for her beloved to return home. Naruto is grinning as he strolls down the street. After 3 arduous years, he is finally returning home. He studies the group behind him, peering over his shoulder. Jiraiya was jotting down notes for his next book, occasionally letting out a small, deviant giggle. He then turned to face his 4 newfound allies from his mission. Karen appeared a little dejected. After they destroyed one of Orochimaru's secret bases, Karen and Gaara were recruited, and soon afterward, their relationship began. Karen was saddened when Gaara had to return home to be with his siblings, but she did remember that Gaara was going to help her emigrate to Suna by coming back for her. Suigetsu appeared to be a child who had recently opened a Christmas present, which is not too dissimilar from the actual situation. They made a quick stop in Wave Country before returning to the Leaf, where Naruto completed his first C-turn-to-rank mission and obtained the blade of the fallen mist swordsman Zabuza. He was now 2/7 of the way through his quest to fettle all 7 blades of the 7 swordsmen of Kiri, along with the Samahata he had obtained from Kisame. Isaribi, his girlfriend, was rolling her eyes at her boyfriend's ridiculous behavior. She joined Jiraiya and Naruto on their mission to exact revenge for all the experiments that Orochimaru and his cronies conducted on her in an attempt to create the ideal water warfare soldiers after she was rescued from a secret base controlled by a doctor under Orochimaru's command. Finally, there was Jugo, who remained his usual modest self. He attacked the group after being released from his cell, and although he was defeated, not before putting Jiraiya and Naruto through a lot. Jiraiya sealed him after he was captured in order to lessen his insane and violent tendencies. The seal does, in fact, work, but in the heat of battle, he loses all self control and unleashes devastating damage on both his enemies and allies. Time seemed to be passing by very quickly, and Naruto asked himself, has it really been 3 years? The sight of the Konoha gates snapped him out of his reverie. Jiraiya gave him a smile as he looked at her. At last, he was at home. Hokage's workspace at a later time. As he prepared to carry out the debrief, the most significant and disliked aspect of finishing a mission, Naruto stood in front of Tsunade and Hiruzen. Glancing at the fair-haired boy, the blonde Hokage inquired, so was the mission a success? Then she scowled and he gave a no shake of his head. She asked Naruto to explain, and he started telling his tale. The first year was simply training, the second year was hunting down Orochimaru. We did in fact kill him, but not without a hell of a fight. It was only because of all our combined strength we were able to kill him. Sadly, his right-hand man Kabuto did slip away. His whereabouts are unknown, Naruto said, and Tsunade agreed. Luckily we destroyed 99.9% of everything he could use to strike back, but we should still look for him in order to tie up any loose ends, Naruto stated afterward. Tsunade questioned, what about the Akatsuki? Jiraiya then raised her voice. The 7 of the 8 remaining Akatsuki were destroyed. Hidan and Kakuzu were killed by us when they came hunting for Fu. Suigetsu being made of water dismembered him and we burned him to ash. Hidan being a Jashinist made him immortal and a top priority to eliminate. Kakuzu was restrained by Karen with her chakra chains, which allowed Jugo to destroy him because his 5 hearts made him almost as unkillable as Hidan, Jiraiya said before giving it to Naruto. Itachi apparently was terminally ill, so he ended up dying in the middle of the fight after his Mangekyo Sharingan was used up during our fight. We almost lost, but we prevailed in the end, but Ju barely. Karen had to keep both me and Jiraiya from dying by using her special ability. She's just awesome like that, Naruto said when she heard the compliments from her cousin who was distant. Deidara and Sasori were also taken care of because Gaara used himself as bait. Sasori was taken out by Jiraiya, me and Suigetsu. Luckily with our Sage mode and Suigetsu being made of water, his poison didn't work at us. Naruto then glanced downtrodden. Tsunade asked, what is it, Naruto? With concern. Naruto started crying and Karen gave him a backward hug. Suigetsu put his hand on his shoulder and said, Deidara was more dangerous than expected. He was about to be defeated, so we guess he decided to do a grand finale. Our 3 other partners Gurren, Sasama, and Kimimaru decided to take him on. All 3 were lost due to the explosion. The only reason we know about this is that Gurren told us before she died from her injuries 2 days later. Naruto, I'm sorry. Losing comrades isn't easy, Hiruzen said, glancing at the young man with regret as he considered his sensei Tobirama and his fallen comrades. You did not get to grow old, but I did. Sometimes it seems like a curse rather than a blessing, Hiruzen thought solemnly. As Hiruzen and Tsunade stared at him in disbelief, Jiraiya concluded, observing that Naruto was pausing. We faced the last 3 members in rain as we found out the last members were 2 of my former students. Nagato and Konan, Jiraiya remarked. Jiraiya spoke as Tsunade looked at the elderly toad hermit with sad eyes, unable to comprehend the pain he was going through. We defeated Nagato's 6 paths of pain and killed him. Konan, seeing Nagato being killed, lost all hope and wanted us to kill her. But we convinced her that it wasn't hopeless and she should move on. She decided to stay in Rain to become the leader. She also destroyed Nagato's Rinnegan so no one else could use it, Jiraiya said. Regaining his composure, Naruto spoke again. We killed a really freaky member named Zetsu. Some weird man-plant hybrid thing, which caused Hiruzen and Tsunade to glare at him and ask, "Are you fucking serious?" He was trying to flee, but because Karen was a censor, we found him and captured him. He was screaming about how he had failed his mother and something about the moon, so I guess he went crazy. Anyway, we decided he was too dangerous to be brought back, so we killed him and sealed him in a scroll, which the Elder Toads took with them for guarding and making sure whatever he was planning wouldn't come to pass. Tsunade was confused. Curious, she said, so why didn't that part of the mission succeed? Konan told us that the Akatsuki were being led by someone behind the scenes, Naruto continued, shocking everyone but Jiraiya. Some guy claiming to be Madara Uchiha was at the helm. Konan and Nagato doubted he was legit, but we can't be sure as he vanished before we got a chance to interrogate him. Naruto then turned to face her with a cold expression. Tsunade nodded to Naruto after folding her hands and giving it some thought for a minute before looking up. I'd call this mission a partial success. We'll keep on the lookout for Madara and Kabuto, but it seems like two of our biggest problems have been handled, Tsunade said, adding, we will keep our guard up, but we at least got some breathing room. Naruto started to say something, but Tsunade cut him off with a smile. Tsunade said, Hanabi is doing fine, Naruto, but I'd like to speak to you and Jiraiya alone for a minute. Naruto nodded and motioned for his 4 allies to exit the room, which they duly did. After that, Tsunade put up a privacy seal to start the private discussions. So, you obtained the information from Hanabi? Inquired Naruto, whose expression instantly changed from cheerful to icy. Yes, I received the information from her, Tsunade scowled. The Hyuga clan's numerous crimes and connections to Danzo and his family have been mounting as a result of her spying. We have more than enough to bring them both down, she said, casting a menacing glance at the boy with the blonde hair. Naruto only uttered, how soon, while Tsunade gave the boy a sly smile. Naruto nodded sharply as he hurried out the door. 3 days, Tsunade said. 3 days until the tumor of the Hyuga will be removed. Now get out of here, Naru, as your princess has been waiting for you in your castle. After 30 minutes, Naruto's apartment. Entering his apartment silently, Naruto searched around until he found the person he was looking for. His heart skipped a beat as he saw her. Hanabi was preparing ramen for her lover who was coming back. Hanabi was pleased with her growth as a shinobi and a woman. She was now 5 feet 4 inches tall and had longer hair that was tied in a ponytail down to her waist. She was less pleased with her bust, though, since it had grown from a C cup to a D. She had developed into a really attractive young lady because people would always stop to stare at her when she walked down the street. With a sly expression on her face, she thought, Naruto, I can't wait for you to get here. You come home after so long and get fed your favorite food by a hot babe like me. Yeah, you'll defiantly be drooling over me, she thought confidently. Then, as a gentle voice whispered in her ear, I'm home, my love, Hanabi was taken from behind and given a gentle embrace. This nearly made her jump out of her skin, but then she turned around and saw Naruto. She noticed how much he had changed. He was now 5 feet 10 inches tall, with longer hair pulled back into a short ponytail. He was also sporting a newer, larger dark purple hoodie that she had bought for him during the Chunin exams. Additionally, she could see that he was wearing black tactical pants and a white undershirt underneath. Then Hanabi realized that even with all the changes, one thing remained constant, his radiant, adoring smile, which made her heart skip a beat. She softly said, Naruto, amazed that he was back. She leapt onto him, burying her face in his chest, and sobbed with happiness that her beloved was finally home. Naruto gave her a gentle pat on the head and said, I'm home, Hanabi. I'm back for good, shedding a few tears. With a huff and a cross of her arms, Hanabi said, Don't scare me like that, you dick. I nearly had a heart attack. She then forced herself out of his arms and struck him in the arm. Sheepishly rubbing the back of his head, Naruto apologized and planted a kiss on her cheek. Now that he'd gone Tsunade, Hanabi accepted the apology but continued to think he was a jerk for approaching her without warning. Then, with a smile on her face, Hanabi hurried to the counter, grabbed a bowl of hot ramen, and set it down on the table. She then seated Naruto, offering him a bowl of your favorite food made by your favorite girl, in a tone reminiscent of a housewife. Hanabi was envious as Naruto laughed and turned to face her, saying, "Really, my beautiful cousin Karen made me a bowl of ramen. How sweet of her." Naruto started laughing at his girlfriend's gullibility when Hanabi said, "What? You've been seeing some bit. Wait, cousin? You have a cousin." Naruto started off by outlining everything that had happened over the previous 3 years. Yeah, it's a bit of a story, so it all began. Hanabi was enthralled with the journey Naruto was on as he listened to him talk into the night. She finally asked him the question she had been dying to ask after he finished his story. "So when do we make our move?" Naruto smiled and answered, 3 days. 3 days and then we clean house. The main branch and root are going to be hit simultaneously. You got more supporters, right? He asked with a nod. 20 altogether, 10 main house who have a personal grudge against Hiashi and 10 branch members with exceptional skill who were given those suppression seals that Jiraiya made so their curse marks won't hinder them in the fight, Hanabi said. Naruto nodded and took her grasp. He gives her a comforting squeeze and says, "We do this right. We do this and all this suffering ends." Which she quietly smiles at. Later on in the evening, Naruto was getting ready for sleep, starting to lie down in his bed. With a look he had never seen before, Hanabi entered the room while wearing a robe and peered down at the floor. He worriedly questioned, "What's wrong?" as she gave him a warm smile. "In 3 days, we're going to do something dangerous," she stated. "I don't know what might happen, but I know this. I love you with all my heart, Naruto, and in case something happens I don't want to not do this as I may never get another chance," she stated with tenacity. She untied her robe and let it drop to the ground, exposing her nude underneath, to Naruto's bewildered stare. Looking at her as if she were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, Naruto's gaze strayed from her flushed face to her breast, which she was vainly attempting to cover with her arm, to her flat stomach, and finally to her lower area, which she was covering with her hand, but he was still able to make out a little tuft of brown hair that appeared to have been cut. "You're the first man I've ever loved and will be the only one I ever want to love," Hanabi said in a meek voice as she shifted into the bed and lay in front of Naruto, staring into his eyes. "I want to be yours now and forever, so tonight let's make love. So we can be one now and forever," she continued, placing her hand on his cheek. Tears were streaming from Naruto's eyes as the woman he loved was sacrificing herself for him, preventing him from speaking. Then he grabbed her, drew her in, and gave her a passionate kiss, which she gave back. "Are you sure?" he asked her as they parted ways. Then Hanabi said the one word he hoped she would respond with, "Yes." When he finished kissing her, Naruto looked at her and said, "If it gets too intense, tell me to stop and I will." Hanabi nodded, understanding. Naruto then stepped on top of her as he undressed. The two lovers only needed the moonlight coming in through the window, so Naruto went ahead and turned out the lights. After 3 days, beyond the Hyuga compound. As Naruto and the 20 Hyuga rebels prepared to launch their attack, he asked, "Sasuke? You, Tayuya, Karen, and Isaribi in position? Into a communication device." "Yeah. We are ready. Remember, we can only hold up the barrier for 30 minutes so you have only a small window of time until it goes down. Then you gotta deal with the loyalist reinforcements," said Sasuke. Since Naruto killed Itachi and spared the final Uchiha from carrying out the deed himself, sparing him a great deal of heartache, Sasuke was more than happy to assist. "Duck. Ass and I have a date night tonight, and I would rather be eating than fighting these freaky-eyed fuckers," Tayuya complained impatiently, making Sasuke blush at his girlfriend's pet name for him and causing Naruto to chuckle. Naruto said over the intercom, "You got a hell of a girl, Sasuke. Tough, no. Nonsense, and beautiful. You neglected to mention tight and flexible," Tayuya boldly remarked, making everyone, including Sasuke, blush. "Difficult woman," Sasuke uttered. A sluggish Nara and his father sneezed simultaneously across town. Pushing back his blush, Naruto said, "Just throw up the fucking barrier." After giving a series of hand signs to Tayuya, Karen, Isaribi, and himself, Sasuke counted down, 3, 2, 1, and all 4 of them simultaneously yelled, "Ninja art, 4 flames formation," as a purple barrier appeared around the Hyuga main house compound, trapping Naruto and his 20 Hyuga subordinates inside. With a voice usually reserved for generals leading troops into battle, Naruto called out, "Let's roll." As he watched the barrier rise and turned to face the 20 Hyuga, all of them stone faced and prepared to fight for the future of their clan. Naruto then rushed in with his troops, ready to complete the long overdue regime change. Tsunade watched the purple barrier rise around the Hyuga compound while she stood atop the Hokage tower. She heard Naruto say, "Let's roll," over her comlink, and she quickly switched to the second channel. Outside Konoha at the same time, root base. A group of people including Jiraiya, Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, Anko, Yugo, her Anbu team, Suigetsu, Jugo, and Shizune were anticipating the attack that would ultimately remove Danzo and his root program, which was a source of pain for Konoha. When Jiraiya found out that Danzo had lied to Hanzo about his students, killing Yahiko and setting Nagato on the course that led to today, she became enraged. He was accountable for every issue the Leaf faced, including Orochimaru, the Uchiha massacre, and his covert interactions with the Hyuga. Jiraiya was trying to get ready while breathing gently. He can't fail this. The last time he felt this anxious was when he and Naruto went into rain to take on Nagato and the other Akatsuki. The radio broadcast, "Root Strike Team. Spade, spade, spade," was then followed by Tsunade's voice. When Jiraiya heard the code word to launch the attack, he turned to face his assembled ninjas and, in a hilarious turn of events, repeated his apprentice's words, "Let's roll." After eliminating the two guards at the secret base's entrance, Jiraiya charged forward. As he ran down the lengthy hallway, the thought, "Danzo, today is the day of your reckoning," crossed his mind. Hanabi. Containing Hyuga compound. Once more, Hanabi was listening in on the Hyuga Council's discussions about money and ways to increase their already enormous power. Hungry bastards, she thought as the world abruptly grew darker. They started the assault. Finally, she put on a false face of worry. A branch member then burst in as she was thinking, "Lord Hiashi, we're under attack." With a terrified expression on his face. Then, with a look of rage on his face, Hiashi stood up. "What, by whom?" he growled, since no one has ever dared to go straight after the Hyuga. "My lord, Naruto Uzumaki. He is in charge of 20 strong traitorous Hyuga." Hiashi scowled as he yelled, "And there's a barrier around the compound so we can't call in our branch members for reinforcements." As he turned to face the council and daughter, Hiashi thought, "There are only 100 main house members here, of which only 60 can fight and 30 branch members, half of whom are servants and maids and the other half are guards. After arriving at the emergency shelter, the council will remain there until the attack is over." As Hanabi was being led away by her grandfather to the council shelter, Hiashi declared, "I will go out and deal with these terrorists personally." "Bastard, you defend the council, but not the women and children of the compound?" Hanabi thought to herself as she was being led away. When she got to the shelter and saw that the door was locked behind her, she thought, "Naruto is going to have a field day kicking you in the ass." Hanabi then slipped out 3 scrolls while everyone was preoccupied and the door was locked. She opened the first scroll to bring out a gas mask, which she put on. She then called forth 2 toads who offered to carry out her plan's second and third scroll, which involved dismantling the Hyuga Council. The 2 toads proceeded through hand signals, and Hanabi moved aside as they both spewed a yellow gas out of their mouths, stopping, toad-style, swamp gas cloud. The room filled with gas as the Hyuga Council was debating when they realized too late that their heiress was donning a gas mask. Feeling their muscles tighten and their vision becoming blurry, they witnessed the individual who would eventually lead their clan extract a last scroll and reveal 2 items, chakra restraint tags and zip ties. Alongside Naruto. While a brawl was taking place in the center of the Hyuga garden, Naruto surveyed his surroundings after deflecting another blow and hitting the man in the solar plexus, knocking him out cold. His 20 Hyuga supporters were decked out in surplus ninja armor, while the majority of the opposing Hyuga were still in their robes or standard ninja outfits, not anticipating an attack in their own house. Even though their armor was older, it wasn't too bad because the sturdy, reinforced chest plate protected them better against strikes from gentlemen. Then, as he noticed his target, Hiashi Hyuga, standing atop the roof seemingly to call him out, he snapped out of his reverie. Then, in order to avoid the chaos below, Naruto leapt to the roof and took a position opposite Hiashi. With unblinking gazes, the 2 men turned on their Byakugan and assumed a gentle fist stance. Naruto, seeing this, assumed a bastardized stance and the 2 men kept staring at each other. Neither spoke as they approached to converse. Before Hiashi could react, Naruto charged at him, throwing a strike that Hiashi blocked and then countered, which Naruto also blocked. As their fluid fighting styles collided, Naruto and Hiashi appeared to be dancing to the untrained eye. When one hit the other parries and counters. This continued for 2 minutes until neither could get the upper hand, and they parted ways. After that, Hiashi launched an air palm at Naruto, knocking him back a few feet. Despite this, he was able to get up and create 10 shadow clones that launched coordinated attacks. Hiashi started to spin, deciding to destroy all of the strikes at once after deflecting several of them with relative ease. Hiashi used the Hyuga clan's ultimate defense, rotation, and as he slowed down, he looked in horror as he played into Naruto's hand. The boy was standing inches away from him holding a Rasengan. Then, sending the clan head flying, Naruto stabbed Hiashi in the stomach with the revolving chakra orb. Being cautious, Naruto waited to see what would happen because he was certain that wouldn't be enough to defeat him. Which turned out to be accurate, as a now. Enraged, Hiashi stood up, his stomach burning red. Hiashi was furious that this brat could hurt him, and as he was struggling to stand again, he heard something. When he turned around, he saw Hanabi standing behind him. Her clothes were burned and torn, indicating that she had been in combat before reaching the roof. With a sardonic tone, Naruto turned to face Hanabi and asked, "What are you doing here, princess?" Hanabi grimaced. With a tone of anger in her voice, Hanabi stated, "I'm here to wrap this up." "Hanabi, you and I will." Hiashi grinned, realizing he had assistance in stopping the boy who had launched the attack. Naruto dashed forward to deliver the final blow after Hiashi felt his body go numb, preventing him from finishing. Hiashi only saw Naruto's triumphant grin as he unleashed his strike to strike him in the forehead before everything went dark. Alongside Jiraiya, Guy, Kakashi, and Jiraiya were battling Danzo since no one else could aid him after his root Anbu was destroyed. Since he was being defeated by 3 of the strongest ninja the Leaf had ever seen, Danzo had already used 3 of the Sharingan in his arm, making it appear as though his years of training and experience under the second Hokage were in vain. Jiraiya gave Kakashi a glance. "Hitaki." His arm. Jiraiya screamed as Kakashi lunged towards Danzo while brandishing a Reikiri. Danzo let out a cry of pain, but he was too slow to react when the Reikiri took away his prosthetic arm. Then Guy gave him a roundhouse kick to the head, shattering the Sharingan he had planted in his right eye socket and upending his entire world. Jiraiya charged at Danzo with scorn as the 3 men stood over him, leaving him lying on the ground. "This is for Yahiko," he said, driving the orb into Danzo's heart and killing the elderly warhawk. Jiraiya then switched on his radio to announce that it was over, but he was cut off when he heard Naruto's voice. Jiraiya appreciated Naruto's radio announcement that the blindfold is on. I repeat, the blindfold is on, since it made him feel less inclined to fight right away. Shortly after, Jiraiya looked at his watch and said, "The stump is removed." I repeat, the stump is removed. After 15 minutes, I'm aging. He whispered, "If I was 20 years younger, I could have done it in 5. And then turned to face the strike force in front of him. He said, "Okay, people, search the area and mop up. I want to be done by dinner." Everyone dispersed, making sure to turn over no stone. Anbu with a cell. Hiashi Hyuga awoke with a severe headache and body aches. "Good night's sleep," a voice from the past said. "What's going on?" asked Hiashi, turning to face Naruto Uzumaki, the voice actor. "Why am I imprisoned? What made you attack the clan of Hyuga?" When Hiashi yelled, Naruto didn't even bat an eyelid. "Hinata. Simple. The daughter you cast away aspired to bring the branch family and the main house back together." "So I did," Naruto said in a tone that made Hiashi's blood boil. He sounded bored and carefree. "You spent so much time on that weakling? You." Hiashi was unable to finish because Naruto's expression became deadly and icy. "Hiashi, stop fucking with your mouth." Hiashi stopped talking when Naruto said, "The only reason you're still breathing is because Hinata was too kind of a person to want to see you dead." Naruto picked up a thick folder and said, "But that's only part of it. There are multiple counts of you and your council members raping women and girls from the branch family using the caged bird seal, some as young as 8 years old. Proof that you were using your illegal gambling to launder money. Murder and infanticide of girls and women you thought were too strong, too weak, or too powerful to be controlled. Hiashi turned pale when Naruto said, and even giving Danzo branch children to be used for his root Anbu. All of Hyuga's secrets and dealings were now public knowledge. Hiashi, how are you able to rape women? With his eyes turning back to icy blue, Naruto remarked, especially when you had daughters yourself. You know, I should have killed you. Hiashi turned to Naruto in fear as he spoke, but I didn't want to give in to the hate and go back to who I was when I was training to kill you, asshole nephew. I chose to take a different approach, and I sealed both your Byakugan and your chakra. Looking at a now angry Hiashi, Naruto remarked, I'm the only one who can unlock this cage because of the blood seal, and you aren't allowed to see anyone except me and the guards to make sure you don't kill yourself. You fucking devil. I promise that Hanabi will seize command of the clan, and you'll... Then Naruto burst out laughing. Hanabi taught me about the strengths and weaknesses of the Hyuga clans and trained me to kill Neji. She is the mastermind behind this. Her goal in asking you out was to fulfill Hinata's dream. Hiashi became quiet after hearing Naruto say that his own daughter, the person he cared about the most, had betrayed him. Hanabi said no when I asked if she would like to speak with you. Except that you are lost, Hiashi, and that you will remain in that cell until you pass away as an elderly, forgotten man. Naruto uttered the words, "You're fucked, Hiashi," and Hiashi felt defeated and cast a downward glance. Naruto turned to face Hiashi before exiting the room, saying, "Hey Hiashi," grabbing his attention and adding, "By the way, just letting you know. I fucked your daughter." Then an electric shock stopped Hiashi, and he got up and charged at the bars being thrown back. After exiting the room, Naruto turned to face Anko and Yugo, the two guards, and thanked them for keeping an eye on him. He then bowed to the two women. "No issue, Naruto," Yugo uttered while wearing a cat mask. "No problemo, Blondie," Anko said, capturing Naruto's attention with her typical flamboyant style of speech. "By the way," Anko added, "please let me know if you or your girlfriend are ever looking for a third." As Naruto blushed and bolted, she remarked, "I'm always down to teach newbies how to get down and dirty." As they turned their attention back to guarding the door, Yugo's only thought was, "What's wrong with you?" As she looked at her friend, who was now laughing. Hyuga compound in the evening. Hanabi and Naruto were sitting outside stargazing after cleaning up from the battle. "No one perished," Hanabi remarked while curled up in Naruto's embrace. Exactly as anticipated. Naruto put his hand on her shoulder and said, "Hiashi and the council are in jail, and you will be named the head tomorrow." "Yes, I am a little afraid. But with you by my side, I know it will work out," Hanabi remarked, giving Naruto joy since he was assisting his girlfriend with her upcoming responsibilities. "So Hanabi, I told your dad about us," Naruto said, gazing up at the stars. This caused Hanabi to look at him excitedly. Hanabi exclaimed, "What did he do?" With the excitement of a child about to open a Christmas gift. "He lunged toward the bars, attempting to murder me. But the barrier pushed him back," Naruto remarked, causing Hanabi to laugh so hard that tears welled up in her eyes. Then, drawing nearer to her, Naruto said, "You know if we really want to stick it to him?" As he lightly squeezed Hanabi's butt, causing the girl to gasp in shock. "We could go into his room and do it in his bed," Naruto continued. To Naruto's astonishment, Hanabi gave him a wide-eyed stare before taking his hand and guiding him into the room while giggling like a schoolgirl. "Minato, Kushina. If you were alive right now, you'd be so proud of him," Jiraiya said with a smile as they entered the room and locked the door. Jiraiya was sitting on the roof and for once wasn't going to peek on a couple. He won the princess's love and saved the village. Now all he needs to do is have a few grandchildren for me. As he walked away in a whirl of leaves, letting his apprentice celebrate with his girl, Jiraiya chuckled to himself. Sitting in a cafe, Hanabi, Tayuya, Karen, and Isaribi discussed their relationships with their well-respected boyfriends. In the 3 months following the Hyuga coup, the four girls grew close to one another. Tayuya asked, "So wait, you're telling me other than regular sex you haven't done anything else?" Hanabi looked at her bewildered. "Yes, indeed," Hanabi questioned, unsure of Tayuya's meaning. Karen adjusted her glasses and said, "You have to try different things. If you don't, he might think you're boring. Then the next thing you know, you'll have cobwebs underneath," she remarked, giving the now anxious looking Hyuga clan chief a sly smile. "That's not true, Naruto. Isaribi interrupted Hanabi just as he was starting. Naruto is a man. They're like small children, so you have to hold his interest or he will start looking elsewhere, Isaribi remarked, drawing on her knowledge from Suigetsu. Naruto won't get bored with me. Would he? Hanabi thought to herself as she glanced at the owner and Enko Mitarashi, grinning, peered down at the young girl. This gave her a brief moment of panic. It seems like you're in a predicament, princess. Lucky for you, I'm an expert on subduction, Enko remarked, drawing the four girls' attention to herself as she pulled herself to a seat. Finding out what your man wants is all you need to do to keep him interested, Enko said, making it sound so easy. What the hell you getting at? Tayuya responded, and how do we find out? It's not like they'll tell us because they'll be too scared that we'll think they're pervs. I mean there, but still. Just have a thought, you moron. Have your boyfriends done anything that could have given you a hint? Enko asked, grinning, and the four girls began to consider the situation carefully. After that, Hanabi realized that Naruto had given her a sign when he repeatedly grabbed, pinched, and slapped her behind. While going through her old memories, Tayuya discovered that Sasuke enjoys making out and getting physical with her when they're at the training grounds. After giving it some serious thought, Isaribi realized that she had once seen Suigetsu reading a porn magazine with the headline, Hot for Teacher. After putting in the most effort to figure it out, Karen finally realized that Gaara was always listening to her. He paid attention to her and did as she asked. The four girls turned to face Enko, who was grinning and saying, "Figured it out, huh?" "So, what's your idea?" inquired Enko. Hanabi uttered the words, "My butt." Unsure of what to do, Tayuya remarked, being outside. When Isaribi called her a slutty teacher, everyone at the table had a "what the hell" look on their faces. Karen uttered the word, "submission." With a nod, Enko gestured to each girl. "Try anal with him," she pointed to Hanabi. "Do it outdoors," she gestured to Tayuya. "Roleplay," she shifted to Isaribi. "And do some femdom," she pointed to Karen. Enko yelled, "Now you got your plans of attack, so get out there and fuck your boyfriends," which caused the other girls to stand up in applause. Afterward, all of the girls, aside from Isaribi, vanished in a swirl of water. With a triumphant expression on her face, Enko became aware that everyone in the cafe had overheard their conversation and that the men with their girlfriends were blushing while the women were staring in shock. Then, Enko stood up and left, thinking, "My work here is done," as she melted into the village like a ghost. Later that day, with Tayuya. Even though Tayuya wasn't easily frightened, she was now fucking terrified. She wondered if it was too late to call it off as she waited in the deserted training ground. The foul-mouthed girl gave a startled, "Hey Tayuya." Sasuke asked, perplexed as to why she had called him out in this place. She hurriedly said, "I made a picnic basket," which only served to perplex Sasuke further. As he accompanied her for lunch, he uttered a dubious, "Okay." Following their meal, Tayuya moved in closer and planted a kiss on him, to which he returned. The kiss intensified as she pushed him down, surprising Sasuke. "Tayuya?" Sasuke inquired, startled. "We're all alone here." "So, let's have some fun." Blushing, Tayuya said, surprised to see Sasuke pick her up and lean her against a tree. With excitement in his voice, Sasuke said, "Who am I to deny a lady her request?" As he reached down to begin undoing Tayuya's pants and giving her a passionate kiss. As Tayuya began to undo Sasuke's shirt, she thought to herself, "Holy fuck, it fucking worked," and she turned back to her black-haired lover. Alongside Karen. When Karen heard her doorbell ring, she was mentally checking off items on her checklist. Sexy glasses check, monotone boyfriend check. "What took you so long?" she asked with a realistic-looking scowl as soon as she opened the door. Gaara, who appeared a little taken aback, began, "I had a hard time getting your papers done but now." Before being cut off, Karen said, "I don't care for your excuses, Gaara. I've been waiting for you for months." Observing that Gaara was acting a little shy, she exclaimed, "Oh my god, he looks so cute." She said, "My god, have you been fucked by stupid?" And Gaara gave her a perplexed look. I don't." Karen again cut Gaara off as she continued. "Because if you are," she remarked seductively, "I got a cure for that." She then produced a bottle of lube and a strap by reaching into a box. Gaara gave her a shocked look before gathering himself and responding in his typical monotone voice, which seemed to mask his excitement. "I have in fact been fucked by stupid." Karen was doing mental acrobatics because she had discovered two things. First, she had a submissive boyfriend. And second, she was beginning to enjoy taking the lead. Karen said, "Well then, let's get started," taking off her pants and putting on the sex toy. In conjunction with Suigetsu. After a demanding training session with Jugo and Naruto, Suigetsu was making his way back to his apartment. He almost passed out when he saw what greeted him as he unlocked the door and entered. Isaribi was dressed as a sultry teacher. He wasn't sure which of her features, her ponytail, her stockings, or the fact that her skirt was so short he could almost see her black thong, he found more attractive. Isaribi, trying not to laugh at her boyfriend's silly expression, said, "You're late for class, young man. I might have to keep you after class. Sit down." Suigetsu took a seat at the table and noticed something in front of him. A test? Just as he was about to ask a question, Isaribi leaned over his shoulder and pressed her breasts against his back, hardening him. Observing Suigetsu become excited, Isaribi persisted until the paper was finished. When it was, she gave him a dejected expression and pouted, saying, "Not good, you failed," before teasing him. "You're fortunate that I'm willing to tutor you." In private, Suigetsu said, almost losing his composure. Isaribi gave herself a mental high. 5. Thinking, "Damn, I'm good. I gotta thank Karen for letting me borrow her old pair of glasses." Then, she turned back to Suigetsu, who was panting and perspiring, realizing that her tutoring was about to start. Alongside Hanabi. While Hanabi was taking a shower and getting ready for bed, Naruto was unaware that Hanabi had no intention of going to bed anytime soon. Now that everything Hanabi was planning was about to come together, she thought, okay, it's now or never. Upon exiting the restroom, she noticed Naruto reclined, looking at Hanabi, who was dressed in her nightgown, with a look of mild exhaustion in his eyes. No matter how many times he saw his girlfriend in her underwear, Naruto could never get over how stunning she was. "Hey babe," he said, checking out his girlfriend. "Curious," he said, "you took extra long in the shower, for what reason?" "Yeah, just getting ready for right now," she remarked, jumping on top of Naruto and starting a passionate kissing session, to which Naruto objected. "Babe, I'm tired from training, can we just do it later?" In an attempt to persuade Hanabi to request it, Naruto pretended to be tired. She pouted, but he was not disappointed. Hanabi turned around, crossed her arms, and sighed, "Ah, and I had something special planned," drawing Naruto's attention. "What do you mean?" Curious Naruto inquired. "I read a magazine and it said that there's a new trend for couples," Hanabi said, slowly bending forward and lifting her butt. "It said that young couples have been experimenting with a new form of sex," she continued, smirking as she started her plan. She fully bent forward, allowing Naruto to see up her nightgown. He noticed that she had no undergarments on. Subsequently, he noticed something that made his heart race. Hanabi was sporting a butt plug. Just as Naruto was about to finish his sentence, Hanabi started talking once more. "Apparently anal sex is something that's on the rise because it feels good for both partners," Hanabi said with a sigh of defeat, "but I guess if you're tired, I guess we can." Naruto stopped her abruptly, grabbing her waist and pressing in close to her. "I'm fine babe, I can totally power through the tiredness," Naruto spoke, his eyes gleaming with anticipation and his face flushed with excitement. As Hanabi wrapped her boyfriend around her finger, she gave herself a mental pat on the back for a job well done. She had to admit that she was starting to get excited as well, feeling Naruto's hardness through his seemingly torn lounge pants. "All right, Naru," Hanabi exclaimed, pulling up her dress to reveal her nude posterior to him. "Let's start experimenting," she said, passing him a bottle of lubricant, to which he promptly started ripping off his clothes and dousing himself in the slick material. Before Hanabi and Naruto got busy, she had one last thought. Wow, who knew Naruto would be so into this? Naruto's removal of her plug startled the girl, bringing her out of her reverie. "Oh no. Oh my god, that felt so good, but this is for Naruto, not for me." She tried to console herself, telling herself, "I'm not a pervert," as she and Naruto started their experimental night. The Hyuga compound garden the next day. Sitting together, Hanabi, Tayuya, Isaribi, and Karen talked about their experiences dating their boyfriends. "Who knew fucking in the woods would get him excited," said Tayuya. "Thankfully, you didn't have to use a ruler to hit your significant other," Isaribi remarked, eliciting laughter from the girls. Karen blushed and said, "Who knew that a silent cool guy like Garo would turn into a panting submissive boy toy?" Then they all turned to face Hanabi, who was squirming. Tayuya asked, "Hey princess, what's wrong?" To the other girl's curious looks. The other girl noticed Hanabi's sudden change in complexion as she turned to face them again. It felt good. "But my ass is kind of sore from last night," she said, grabbing the other girl's attention. "I think he's a little too big for it, but I'm sure it'll get better with repetition," she continued. "How big is he?" thought Karen, Tayuya, and Isaribi shared as they glanced at the blushing Hyuga girl. Later on that evening, all four of the girls were sleeping peacefully with their boyfriends when 8 people atop the Konoha walls suddenly appeared. None of them could have predicted what would happen. "Kabuto, you have all 8 subjects prepared?" inquired Madara Uchiha. "Yes, with 2 special ones for Naruto Uzumaki," Kabuto, who appeared more like a snake than a man, answered. Madara said, "Good, let's get started." Kabuto nodded and started going through the hand signals. Summoning Jutsu, reanimation, was spoken by Kabuto, after which the other 8 restrained people started to turn into dust. Eventually, the 8 reanimated puppets rose to their feet and seemed perplexed. Then Madara said, "Hashirama and Tobirama, you 2 go and kill Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Hiruzen." Before turning to go, Hashirama gave him a quick glance and said something. Hashirama remarked, "You'll die here tonight," and hurried to the Hokage tower with his brother. Itachi called out to the clan slayer, "Kill your brother and his lover and bring back his Sharingan," was the last command Madara gave Itachi before it hurried to the Uchiha compound. He gave the 2 ninjas that Naruto had encountered on his first mission the order, Zabuza and Haku go and destroy the hospital. As Zabuza raced through the village, he glanced at Haku. "Haku, make every effort to defend yourself," Zabuza said to his female companion. "Hopefully someone can destroy us before we cause too much damage." "Yes, Lord Zabuza," Haku replied as a sinking feeling entered his chest. "Hidan," Madara remarked, glancing at the reanimated Jushinist who had reduced to a heap of ashes since the last time he had seen him go crazy. Then Hidan gave a loud, "Fuck yeah," and fell to the ground. Madara said, "Last but not least, you 2 go kill Hanabi Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki." They're both at the Hyuga compound, at which point the 2 figures started to run toward the compound. Using the 2 figures. The last memory Kushina Uzumaki had was assisting Minato in shielding her newborn Naruto from the 9 tails by using her body as a shield. Kushina wondered how she was revived. Shouting from her partner startled Kushina out of her reverie. Now she's be ordered to kill him, fuck, she thought to herself. "What's wrong?" inquired Kushina. The sobbing figure cried, "Why'd I have to fight Hanabi and Naruto?" The figure nodded in response to Kushina's question, "Why did you know my son?" "Yes, my first love was your son. It was before I woke up here that I told him my feelings," she recalled, drawing a pitying glance from Kushina before continuing, "And Hanabi. I'm going to have to fight them both." Kushina chose to speak again because she thought this was a cruel joke. "What's your name, honey?" she inquired of the girl sobbing beside her. The resurrected Hinata wiped tears from her eyes and said, "Hinata sniff Hinata Hyuga," as she carried out her unwanted mission. Late at night in Konoha. The sounds of explosions and, shortly after, screaming woke up the village of Konoha. When young and old, active and retired ninja alike got out of bed and braced themselves for battle, they had no idea what sort of battle they would be facing. Alongside Karen and Gaara. Both Karen and Gaara were startled out of sleep as they hurried to the hospital, where Karen could get ready to tend to any injured. When they arrived at the hospital, they saw 2 figures dressed in Kiri garb attacking both ninja and patients equally, leaving the hallways covered in blood and gore. The 2 turned to face the 2 redheads as Gaara threw a wave of sand at them. "Who are you?" inquired Gaara. The words, Zabuza Momochi and Hikuyuki, from Zabuza made Gaara and Karen freeze because they both believed Suigetsu and Naruto had told them they were supposed to be dead. "We were brought back by a madman, and we were now his puppets. We are powerless over what we do," Zabuza declared. Haku begged the 2 redheads to, "Please stop us." With a confident smirk, Karen said, "You take on Zabuza. I'll take on the ice princess here, I can take her on." She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth as she turned to face Gaara. "Well," Haku remarked, "I'm a guy actually," to which Karen and Gaara both gave him a wide-eyed stare. "Why are you more attractive than me?" Karen exclaimed, calling for her chains and lunging toward Haku as Gaara attempted to seize Zabuza in order to put him in a restraint. With Tayuya and Sasuke. Both Sasuke and Tayuya were struggling to survive as they fought a resurrected Itachi. Tayuya was attempting to attack Itachi with her 3 summons, but it wasn't having much effect because of his Susanoo. After that, Sasuke used his Susanoo and Mangekyo Sharingan to attack Itachi, slightly injuring him. I'm happy Tsunade gave me these new eyes. Sasuke was upset to learn that Danzo possessed a collection of Sharingans, but the collection did assist him in obtaining the Sharingan's next and final level because it was activated when Naruto told him he had killed Itachi. Itachi's broken body then began to mend, returning him to fighting form, jolting Sasuke out of his reverie. Itachi turned to face Sasuke as Tayuya pointed at her and yelled, "That's so unfucking fair. What did you do, punch in a fucking cheat code or something before you came here?" Tayuya asked. Sasuke growled in response to Itachi's remark, "You have a strange taste in women, little brother." Sasuke shouted, "Shut up and stay dead this time," as he charged again, Tayuya trailing closely behind him. Hokage Mountain Summit with Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Hiruzen. As he and his students faced his deceased teachers, Hiruzen exclaimed, "Amazing. Could that be Saru?" Hashirama asked, a little curious. 5 shinobi of the cage level are gathered here. As he called forth Enma, the Monkey King, Hiruzen remarked, "It's the stuff of legends." "I concur." "Very poetic," exclaimed Tabarama as he prepared to fight while Hashirama engaged the Sage Mode. "Grandfather," Tsunade exclaimed, "I'll defeat you so you can both rest in peace," causing her diamond tattoo to spread throughout her body as she used her 100 healings technique. "Hee. That's the small Suna I am familiar with," Hashirama chuckled. Jiraiya activated his Toad Sage Mode and said, "Damn it." He also assumed a fighting stance and uttered the words, "I'm too old for this shit." Alongside Suigetsu, Jugo, and Isaribi. While neither of the two wanted to get in the way of the other, Suigetsu and Isaribi were staring at a crazed Hidan and a berserking Jugo beat the living shit out of each other. Suigetsu asked, "Wanna go see what Naruto is up to?" Isaribi nodded, and the two disappeared into a swirl of water, leaving the 2 psychopaths to battle it out in secret. Alongside Guy, Ibiki, Yugo, Asuma, Anko, Kurenai, and Genma. Gazing at Madara Uchiha, and what he believes to be Kabuto Yakushi, Kakashi said, "The one night we all decide to hang out and the village gets attacked." He was certain that he wasn't the real deal, but there was only one way to find out. Kakashi Hitaki, how unexpected. "I suppose a god exists somewhere," declared Madara, taking off his Akatsuki cloak and getting ready for combat. "I don't believe in God," Kabuto said, taking off his cloak to reveal the monstrous creature he had become. "But I could be convinced," he added, sticking out his tongue. Guy said, "Let's let our fists do the talking for us. No more talking with our mouths." Everyone turned to look at him. Guy turned around after Asuma said, "I think that was the first time you ever said something cool and not corny as shit." "I apologized to Asuma." Guy said, "Did you say something?" With complete innocence, not realizing that he had unintentionally mimicked his rival. "Sigh fuck my life," was all Kakashi could say as he turned back to look at the 2 freaks in front of him. Alongside Hanabi and Naruto. Not even bothering to get out of their pajamas, Naruto and Hanabi were gathering up their ninja gear, putting on their weapon pouches, leaving their bedroom, and running into the courtyard. Only to have the ground in front of them sliced by an airblade, stopping them. With a thud, the red-haired woman leapt down in front of them as they both looked up to see her sword drawn. They heard a second thud and turned to see who it was just before they got into a brawl. "Hinata," Naruto uttered in shock. Hanabi called her big sister and started crying. "Hello Naruto, Hanabi," Hinata greeted him, appearing exactly as she had on her deathbed. "I don't understand how you're still alive," asked Naruto, whose thoughts were racing through his head. The red-haired woman explained, "It's a reanimation jutsu. Since we are personally connected to you, some asswipe summoned us back to kill you." Naruto stared at her in confusion. She said, "I'm your mother, Naruto," and Naruto gaped like a fish at that. "Whoa, really?" Naruto said, "Hey babe, look, my mom is just as pretty as you are." Hanabi and Kushina blushed at the compliment. "Yes, I am aware of that. Been dead for a while but I still got it," Kushina declared, her triumphant smirk on her face belying her lack of modesty. Wait. Hinata asked, looking at Hanabi and Naruto with a shocked and inquiring expression. Baby, she said. Oh yeah, so we kind of bonded after Hanabi assisted me in killing Neji. Almost 4 years later. Oh, and I also killed your cousin, Naruto uttered, giving himself a head scratch. Hinata was taken aback. Surprised was Kushina. Then Hanabi raised his voice. With tears in her eyes, she said, I fell in love with Naruto Hinata and I don't regret it. He helped me forget my hatred and sorrow and heal from the hole that was left when you left. Naruto took her hand and gave her a tender glance as she spoke. He's the perfect man in my eyes and I will never do anything to hurt him. And I know he feels the same. As Kushina grinned at her son's ability to find love in his life, Hinata began to cry. Hinata, don't be sad. Naruto started out, then something happened. Hinata sniffed as her body started to disintegrate and she started to glow. I'm not sad, Naruto, she said, looking up and grinning at them. I'm happy because the two people I left behind and the two loved the most were able to find love and happiness. Unaware of what was happening, Naruto, Hanabi, and Kushina stared in shock at what they saw. As she began to fade, Hinata made the decision to say goodbye. Hanabi, Naruto. When Hinata's spirit vanished, Naruto, Hanabi, and even Kushina wept. I love you both with all my heart and I hope when your time comes we can meet again in the afterlife, Hinata smiled. After Hinata vanished, Naruto and Hanabi looked where she had been and noticed a dead body. Once more, she was lost from their lives. Naruto, Kushina uttered, capturing the interest of both Hanabi and Naruto. I'm still here, so I guess we still got to fight, she continued, assuming a fighting stance and drawing her sword ready. Naruto responded, regretting that he now had to battle his own mother. Yeah, I guess so. Kushina laughed as Hanabi said, let's give it our all, mother. Sweetheart, I already like you. Alright, Hanabi and Naruto. Kushina charged forward and said, show me what you got. After deflecting his mother's sword strike, Naruto quickly countered with a Rasengan, which Kushina easily swatted away. However, Hanabi caught her off guard by striking her twice with her twin sparrow fists. After being knocked back, Kushina surprised both Naruto and Hanabi by getting back up and reassembling as if nothing had happened. Kushina sighed and shrugged her shoulder, damn it. I guess you two just have to keep trying until you figure something out. Both Naruto and Hanabi nodded at one another before Naruto released his twin fox fist and Hanabi prepared a second twin sparrow fist before charging once more in an attempt to stop the resurrected Kushina. Alongside the Hiruzen, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. Standing opposite the two resurrected Hokage who showed no signs of weariness were Hiruzen and his two students, who were panting profusely. Hiruzen decided to take a chance and turned to Tsunade and Jiraiya. To the surprise of his students, Hiruzen said, Jiraiya, Tsunade, go help somewhere else, I got an idea to defeat them. Sensei, you can't. Hiruzen raised his voice before Jiraiya could speak. Hiruzen gave the order, don't argue with me, damn it, just go, and Tsunade and Jiraiya leapt away. After that, Hiruzen made 5 clones and carried out his plan, using 2 of me to hold them off and 2 more to apply the Reaper Death Seal. He thought, I got one shot at this, I better make it count, as he and 2 clones battled the 2 dead Hokage while the other 2 began using hand signals. As they hurried through the village, Tsunade told Jiraiya, I'll go to the hospital. You go find Naruto and help him if he's having trouble. Jiraiya uttered the word, copy, and hurried to the Hyuga compound. Alongside Karen and Gaara. When they finally managed to stop Zabuza and Haku, the redheads were both out of breath. All it took was repeatedly chopping apart Haku with Karen's chains and roughly 20 times crushing Zabuza with Gaara's sand. At least 50 ninjas arrived to assist them, so they weren't alone. Sadly, only roughly 15 of them survived with injuries varying from minor to fatal. Tsunade broke through the wall and took in the scene, startling both of them out of their reverie. She said, what happened? And Karen answered. Tsunade entered medic mode as Karen said, 2 of them attacked the hospital but we stopped them but just barely, we got a lot of wounded. Karen, assist me in stabilizing and healing the injured. Gaara, locate Sasuke and assist him. By the luck of it, he's either getting his ass kicked or kicking ass right now. Assist him. Gaara stood up on unsteady legs and started to walk away when a wounded shinobi intervened, following Tsunade's order. The shinobi said, wait. Take this. Gaara accepted the soldier pill and felt energized once more. Thank why. Gaara started, then stopped when the shinobi who had given him the pill passed away. Gaara briefly closed his eyes before scurrying off to locate Sasuke in the hopes that the boy with the raven hair was still alive. Alongside Tayuya and Sasuke. Sasuke was losing, and that would be an understatement. After attempting to engage Itachi in hand 2. Hand combat, Tayuya lost his right arm, his chakra was depleted, and he was rendered unconscious. With a blank and bored expression on his face, Itachi turned to face Sasuke. What now, little brother? Itachi asked, to which Sasuke laughed. Sasuke spoke in a snarky manner, I kick your ass, help Tayuya, and go to the hospital to get filled to the gills with morphine because I'm really fucking hurting. Sasuke, why didn't you kill me? Why didn't you get revenge? Itachi scowled at that point. After I took everything from you, you simply abandoned me. When Itachi questioned, Sasuke started to chuckle. Because you wanted me to kill you. To be frank, you weren't worth my time, Sasuke stated, defiantly glancing at Itachi. I didn't want to kill someone in retaliation because I saw what that does. Sasuke replied, and I did get revenge, but in a different way, to which Itachi scowled even more. And how is that done? He asked Sasuke. Sasuke answered, because I didn't give you what you want. Before Itachi could reply, Sasuke's Susanoo pulled him from underground and held him firmly. Sasuke then directed all of his chakra into his last attack, Amaterasu, shouting as Itachi was engulfed in black flames. As the resurrected clan slayer was burned to nothing, Itachi thought, with a sad smile, I guess you did get revenge, little brother. After putting out the fire, Sasuke crawled over to Tayuya and tried to lift her up with his other arm, but he failed and fell to the ground next to her. He felt himself lifted up by something that looked like sand before he passed out. Now, Uchiha, go to sleep. As Sasuke passed out from head trauma and blood loss, Gaara's voice could be heard saying, you earned it. After picking up Tayuya, Gaara returned to the hospital. Alongside Hiruzen. The clones of Hiruzen yelled, seal, seal, at the Shinigami, causing their bodies to crumble and their souls to be taken by the latter. His clones then dispersed. Then Hiruzen collapsed to his knees, and King Enma emerged from his staff form, and they both took a seat. I'm not as young as I used to be, he remarked, gazing out at his villages still. Raging conflict. When he could take no more fighting, he took out 2 cigars he had saved for the day he would tell Naruto about his background. Then, using a little fire jutsu, King Enma lit both cigars and offered the other to the Monkey King as he took a seat next to Hiruzen. Enma questioned Hiruzen as they sat down to smoke cigars, the former Hokage beside Enma. Enma asked, Sarutobi, is this our last fight? Hiruzen gave him a quick glance and responded with a single word. He answered simply, yes, feeling like an old sword drawn in a moment of passion and used for one last battle. Good, Enma grinned, but we're too old for this shit. That's true, Hiruzen replied, having given up on trying to stop the conflict himself in favor of the younger generation. Alongside Hanabi, Suigetsu, Isaribi, and Naruto. As Isaribi attempted to stop the bleeding from the chest wound that Kushina had inflicted with a well-placed slash attack, Naruto was hauled back from the battle. Because of the 9 tails, he was able to heal more quickly than most people, but healing has a limit. The more injured you are, the longer it takes to heal. After 5 minutes of healing, he was able to rise and engage in combat, but as she and Naruto both moaned in agony, a flying Hanabi knocked him down. Naruto comforted his girlfriend, you okay? As she was having trouble sitting up. Hanabi clutched her side and said, I think that kick broke my rib. Her voice was straining. Naruto then turned to watch Suigetsu and Kushina sparring. While Kushina appeared to be winning, Suigetsu was holding his own. Because Suigetsu was made of water, Kushina was unable to completely destroy him, but she was still able to parry and block every blow he delivered and respond with blows of her own. Suigetsu was thankful that his body was made of water and that the Zabuza's executioner had not used a blade. He would have died 10 times over otherwise. Suigetsu yelled, fuck, as his arm was struck again. This fight was not progressing, so he said, why did I decide to come here? I should have stayed with Jugo, he's probably done already. Alongside Jugo. As he pulled himself free of a wall, Hidan yelled, why won't you just fucking die already? A fully transformed Jugo approached him, grinning demonically. Jugo yelled, less talking, more dying, as Hidan charged at him once more. Returning with Naruto and friends. When a hand was placed on his shoulder, Naruto was about to get up and assist his friend again when he turned to see a bruised and somewhat exhausted Jiraiya. To the man's dismay, Naruto yelled, "Hey pervy sage, what you doing here?" Jiraiya remarked, "I was told to come find you, but it looks like Kushina has been keeping you busy." Naruto laughed. Naruto turned and remarked, "I always imagined my mother would be a badass, but I never thought she could be this awesome." Suigetsu had been reduced to a puddle before reforming once more. Then Jiraiya laughed, attracting Naruto's attention. "Well, she was the only person who could rival your dad," he said, smiling, "but that's a story for another time." Naruto had a tick mark on his head. Jiraiya looked at Isaribi and then became serious. "Isaribi, take Hanabi to the hospital," he said, and the girl nodded and followed, sprinting off with a visibly shaken Hanabi. He was about to object when Jiraiya spoke up again. "Apparently, Madara, and what used to be Kabuto are up there. Go up there and end this once and for all." With finality, Jiraiya said, "Naruto, you go help Kakashi and the other Chunin. From what I heard over the comm channels, they're on the north wall." With a silent sigh, Naruto stood up and hurried to the north wall, leaving Jiraiya and Suigetsu to battle his mother who had come back to life. Then Jiraiya went into the courtyard where Suigetsu and Kushina were still fighting. He coughed and attracted their attention. Kushina laughed as Jiraiya joked, "Hey Kushina, how's it going? Still as sexy and scary as ever." "Hello, long-time toad pervert. Have you grown older or sadder since I last saw you?" Kushina joked, to which Jiraiya gave him a forehead slap and Suigetsu burst out laughing. "You're actually Naruto's mother," Suigetsu uttered as he got ready once more. Jiraiya turned to face Suigetsu and said, "Well, Kushina, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to stop you. I gotta seal her, so whatever you do, don't stop attacking." Suigetsu exclaimed, "Gotcha," as the two men lunged toward Kushina. Alongside Kakashi. Although Kakashi never asked for much in life, it nevertheless tried to screw him over. In an attempt to exact revenge on the girl he loved, his sensei's son almost turned into a broken shell of himself after his father killed himself, his two teammates, and his sensei. But now that his long-thought dead comrade Obito stood in front of him, attempting to murder him, he felt as though the entire universe was against him. Kakashi asked, staring at his friend who had turned enemy, "Why Obito?" "Because this world's a nightmare, because you let Rin die, because that little spiky-haired asshole ruined my plans that I spent years putting into place," said Obito. A voice called out, "Glad to ruin your plans, asshole," flew behind Obito, revealing that Naruto had placed him between Kakashi and the blonde who had just been mentioned. Naruto said, "Hey Kakashi-sensei, who's ugly right here?" Half his face looks like melted ice cream, which infuriated Obito and made Kakashi laugh until he calmed down. Kakashi mentioned his other teammate, Obito Uchiha, with a hint of sadness. "Apparently, this all began from me killing Rin. The girl he loved," he remarked. The two men responded differently to Naruto's questioning. "Really, that's why you did all this? And, wouldn't it make more sense just to kill Kakashi instead of going through all this trouble?" Comments. Naruto then turned to face Obito. "What did you just say?" Obito yelled, taken aback by the child's unexpected statement. "Naruto. What the fuck?" exclaimed Kakashi, shocked that his pupil would even consider the idea. "What?" Naruto replied, perplexed as to why the two men were treating him like a jerk. "When Neji killed Hinata, I didn't go all villain and try to conquer the world. I just killed him and him only. I'm not some emo asshole who decides to go on an unnecessary destruction spree after I gained my vengeance. That's just bad character development." In a different reality. Teleported to the 5-Cage Summit to assist Madara in announcing the start of the Fourth Great Ninja War, Sasuke let out a sneeze as he touched down. Returning to the narrative. "Anyway," Naruto interrupted, "waking up the two of us. Let's get it on, let's kick your ass, send my mom back to the afterlife, and go to bed later with my pale-eyed princess in my arms." "I'm not here to listen to your sob story," Naruto declared, striking up a fox fist stance. With the other Chunin and Anko. Anko was glad to be facing Kabuto. Although she will never be able to kill Orochimaru directly because Jiraiya and Naruto had the honor, that doesn't mean she can't give him one last taste of revenge by eliminating his apprentice and ending the evil cycle. She took one look around the clearing and saw something that did not sit well as she leapt over Kabuto's strange stomach snake. The only people still capable of resisting were Asuma and Guy, with Ibiki, Kurenai, Genma, and Yugo all unconscious. Asuma attempted a fire jutsu, but Kabuto avoided it and knocked Asuma into a tree, unconsciousing him. Then, with only Guy and herself left, Anko swore in her head. Anko yelled, "Shit. Guy, how are you?" as she ducked once more. He gasped for air and said, "I'm not doing so well." Kabuto started laughing at him. "I think one of my broken ribs punctured my lungs," he added. Guy and Anko looked at him in disbelief as he said, "Ha ha ha. Yeah, I may have lost most of my reanimated soldiers, but I got 7 still living specimens left. Once Madara kills Kakashi, I can pick whoever I want to help me continue our plans. I think Kakashi, Guy, Asuma and you dear Anko will be the best combination for success," Kabuto said while Anko was looking down. "Guy," Anko said, grabbing the man's attention. He looked into her eyes and noticed that she was crying. "Tell Kakashi that. I love him for me," she replied with a sorrowful smile, which worried him. Then, Anko attacked Kabuto with reckless abandon, not even thinking about her safety. Anko didn't dodge when Kabuto struck her in the middle of her body, despite her expectation that she would. To the surprise of both Guy and Kabuto, the snake sliced right through her. She then moved forward, using her momentum to knock Kabuto to the ground. Kabuto was stunned until he felt Anko grab hold of his left hand and saw her use her right hand to make gestures with his left. When she was done, she had a psychotic smile on her face and looked Kabuto in the eyes. "Die with me, for eyes. Twin snake sacrifice," she uttered as 2 snakes materialized, encircling Anko and Kabuto until they formed an impenetrable dome. Guy yelled, "Anko," as a blast erupted between the 2 snakes, knocking him over and distorting his vision. All he saw when his vision returned was a sizable crater where Anko and Kabuto had once been because the explosion had destroyed all proof of their presence. Guy then started to weep in silence for his departed friend until he heard Asuma moan and got to his feet. After that, he approached Asuma and picked him up, giving him a new task, getting everyone to the hospital. After that, he hurried off on his first journey to save his surviving friends after picking up a wounded Kurenai. Alongside Jugo. Now, panting, Jugo was on the ground watching the resurrected Hidan begin to crumble. "What the hell?" Hidan exclaimed before he vanished, leaving behind nothing but a dead body and a pile of dust. Now that Jugo had returned to his human form, he got up and started his arduous and drawn-out journey to the hospital. Jiraiya and Suigetsu together. Gazing upon a cowed Kushina, Jiraiya rolled up a scroll and set it beside another. "Are you sure that's all you want to say?" Jiraiya inquired, to which Kushina nodded. She cried and answered, "Yes, I'm sure. Everything I wanted to say to Hanabi and Naruto is right there. I just wish I could have spent more time with them." Her body started to fail. As she began to fade, Kushina said, "Jiraiya, thank you." Jiraiya and Suigetsu both bowed their heads in prayer as Kushina's body crumbled to dust, revealing the sacrifice used to perform the jutsu, until Jiraiya raised his head. "Let us go assist Naruto," Jiraiya uttered. Suigetsu remarked, "Hopefully this is the last time I help someone different today because I'm up to 3 so far," as he was exhausted from the constant fighting. As they started their journey to the North Wall, Jiraiya laughed. Alongside Kakashi and Naruto. While Kakashi and Naruto were fighting Obito, Kakashi used a kunai and a flash of brilliance to destroy Obito's Sharingan. As he pulled the kunai out and hurled it at Kakashi, who ducked and fell back, Obito let out a painful scream. That's when Naruto started to laugh. Naruto remarked, "Good one, Kakashi-sensei. Now he can't use that annoying ass ability no more." Obito growled in response. As he passed through hand signals and blasted a fireball at Naruto, who avoided it with only a slight burn to his clothes, Obito yelled, "Shut up, I can still win this." Just as Obito was about to launch his attack, he was knocked back by Kakashi's foot striking his face. When Obito was dazed, Naruto, who had made the decision to win the fight, raised his fox fists and charged at him. When Obito realized what was going to happen too late, all he could do was watch in horror as the blonde boy got closer. When Obito looked up, he saw a stone-faced Naruto, as the first fist struck him dead in the chest, cutting through him like a hot knife through butter. Obito fell to his knees, coughing up blood. Naruto decapitated Obito with his second blow, causing his head to fall to the ground angrily, not wanting to drag this out through conversation. Then, turning to face the masked Chunin, Naruto smiled and said, "We did it, Kakashi-sensei." He then laughed a little and added, "We saved Christmas." With his signature grin, Kakashi chuckled lightly at his student's mischievous behavior. Then he went to see Obito's body and was saddened to see him go again. He swiftly performed hand gestures before using a little fire jutsu to completely demolish the body. Before he heard a thud coming from behind him, he was staring at the burning body. Kakashi bellowed, "Naruto," and dashed to the boy who had fallen. As soon as he realized he had just passed out from exhaustion, he immediately became calm. The boy was then picked up by Kakashi right before Jiraiya arrived. "Naruto's fine," Kakashi told Jiraiya, calming down. "Just tired. Let's get him to the hospital," he concluded. "Yes," Jiraiya responded, laughing as the two men departed the area with Naruto in a swirl of leaves. "From what I've been hearing over the radio, Hanabi has been causing a fuss over, where is her Naru?" Konoha Hospital, the following 2 days. Naruto felt a weight on his chest when he tried to straighten himself after waking up with a headache and body aches. He grinned as he looked down. Upon noticing that Hanabi was sleeping, he decided to wake her up because he thought she looked so adorable. After giving her a kiss on the forehead, Naruto roused her, saying, "Wake up, princess." She slowly awoke to find Naruto smiling, at which point she realized he was awake and hurried away. She called out to Naruto, "Naruto," and he cried out in agony. "I'm sorry, I got caught up in the excitement," she said, appearing apologetic as Naruto twitched and fell back down. She nodded when Naruto asked, "You doing okay?" She sat beside Naruto and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. My ribs were cracked, not broken, so they were easy to fix." Naruto sighed with relief. Then, approaching Naruto and stroking his bandaged body, Hanabi remarked, "But you mister have a lot more injured," adding, "Looks like I'm going to have to nurse you back to health," in a seductive tone. When Hanabi felt something push up against her, she grinned and said, "I guess there's one bone that's not broken." Naruto blushed, embarrassed. Before she could finish speaking, Hanabi and Naruto heard laughter. They turned to face the door and blushed. Hearing Hanabi yell, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, and Tayuya entered the room. However, they were too preoccupied to notice them entering. Tayuya was giggling uncontrollably at the couple. Kakashi was chuckling away like a little child. Jiraiya was writing in his notepad, "Keep going, this is good stuff," when Tsunade struck him in the head. She shouted at Jiraiya, "Shut up sleazebag," and then turned her attention back to Hanabi and Naruto. "And you too. Hospitals are for delivering babies, not making them," she said, almost laughing at the redness on both of their faces when Hanabi leapt off of Naruto and stood next to his bed. "I was just coming to see what the commotion was. Me and Sasuke are in the room 3 doors down from you," Tayuya said, pausing his laughter. Naruto inquired, "How's Sasuke?" To which Tayuya responded with a hint of sadness. Naruto became concerned when she said, "He lost his right arm and almost died, but he's still alive and kicking after all I told him if he dies before the wedding, I'd have to resurrect him and kill him again." Tayuya's statement made Naruto pay attention and caught him off guard. Naruto yelled, "What are you guys getting married?" Tayuya nodded. Everyone perspired at Tayuya's frank statement. "Yep, I guess fucking him in the woods was all the proof he needed to realize I was the best girl for him. He proposed yesterday." Tayuya started to walk away, saying, "Okay, I'm going back to the room." However, she stopped and turned to face Tsunade, saying, "Oh, and by the way, me and Sasuke tried to make babies about 3 times since we've been here." Tsunade became enraged, and Tayuya fled from the furious blonde. Tsunade turned around and left after saying, "Little shit, I was just checking up on you, but you seem to be in good hands, so I'll come back later to change your IV and bandages." In a melancholic voice, Kakashi said, "Naruto, thank you for killing Obito for me. I couldn't have gone through with it." Naruto nodded, and Kakashi continued, "Also, Anko died in the battle against Kabuto. She sacrificed herself to kill him." Naruto then froze. Since he killed Orochimaru, Anko and Naruto had been close friends, and he had hoped that one day she would be able to move on from her past as he had. In remembrance of the insane snake lady who had cut his cheek during the Chunin exams that day, a tear trickled down Naruto's cheek. I was wondering. I'm going to be in charge of her funeral, Kakashi started, but Hanabi interrupted. She shocked everyone by saying, we can bury her in the cemetery at the Hyuga compound, even though it was against the rules for non-Hyugas to be buried there. I was already planning on moving Hinata's grave there so one more wouldn't hurt. It's the least we could do for her, she said. With a small smile, Kakashi turned to face Hanabi. Thanks, Lady Hanabi. It means more than you can imagine, he murmured as Guy revealed to him Anko's feelings for him, which was very intimate. Well, I better get going, he said, disappearing from the room, leaving Jiraiya alone. Naruto, Jiraiya started, I'm so proud of you. You can't even imagine it. He took 2 scrolls out of his pocket, one bearing Hanabi's name and the other bearing Naruto's. While Hanabi took her scroll, Naruto took the one bearing his name and exclaimed, what are these? Kushina had a last message for you too, Jiraiya remarked as they both turned to face her. He walked out of the room, saying, I'll let you read them in private. After exchanging glances, Hanabi and Naruto silently opened their scrolls and started to read. Naruto, I apologize for our brief encounter, which was primarily spent with me attempting to kill you. I'm relieved that my concerns were unfounded because I had no idea what kind of man you would grow up to be when I passed away that night. You've developed into a wonderful man, a skilled shinobi, and based on what I observed of Hanabi, an excellent spouse. You seem to love her with all of your heart and soul, based on how you spoke about her. Naruto, cling to her and love her till the end of time. It's evident to me that Hanabi is the kind of woman I would be honored to have as my daughter and grandma. Kushina Uzumaki, wife of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, will be watching from heaven. Be safe, my son, and never forget that I love you. When he was done writing his letter, Naruto wiped a tear from his eye. His mother's words made him smile, and he turned to face Hanabi. Then he noticed Hanabi blushing profusely and fixating on the scroll as though it were about to blow up in her hands, which alarmed him. Additionally, you should stimulate your man's prostate and don't be scared to perform analingus if you truly want to make him happy. If Naruto is at all like Minato, he will initially be reluctant to the idea but will eventually warm up to it. Just make sure he has a shower first. Next, don't be hesitant to peg him because most boys won't acknowledge it. Naruto shook Hanabi out of her reading, asking, Honey, what's wrong with what's written there? To which Hanabi responded by rolling up the scroll and shoving it into her sleeve. Naruto regarded her with skepticism as she blurted out, Nothing, just your mom threatening to come back to life and kill me if I break your heart. All right, Naruto replied, not pursuing the conversation as Hanabi calmed down. She piqued Naruto's curiosity by saying, I'm going to go get some ramen. You want the usual? Naruto responded, Yeah, that will be fine, as Hanabi gave him a kiss and left. After watching her exit the room, Naruto turned to face the ceiling and thought to himself, future husband. Naruto Uzumaki. Hyuga. I guess I can make that work, chuckling to himself. As usual, Naruto sat in a chair in front of Hiashi, who was in prison. Thinking that since Hiashi had no means of communication with the outside world, it would be beneficial for him to learn about what was going on in the world, Naruto concluded. Since his devoted supporters were imprisoned and Hanabi hadn't communicated with him since the day of the Hyuga takeover, Naruto, the man who had initially placed him in his cell, was the only person to visit him. This is Hiruzen and Hanabi playing in the water park, Naruto said, sliding the photo between the bars. This one is of me and Himawari at the summer festival last year. She looks so cute with the sunflower in her hair, don't you think? Naruto asked, to which Hiashi remained silent. Naruto reached into an envelope and withdrew a variety of pictures. This one right here is of all 4 of us celebrating Hanabi's birthday. She thought there was an emergency plan meeting, so the surprise really knocked her socks off, Naruto said, slyly sliding the photo through the bars. As he slipped the last picture through the bars, Naruto remarked, You can see the surprise in her face. Naruto looked down at the aging figure in front of him and said, It's been 10 years, Hiashi. 10 years, 10 visits. Hiashi remained silent in response. You haven't said a word in 10 years. I'll admit it, I got a lot of willpower, but that just blows my mind, Naruto said. Naruto went on, You know the Hyuga clan is doing better without you now. Very impressive. from 450 clan members to almost 600 in just 10 years. He turned to face Hiashi as the man scornfully stared at him. "I guess that's what happens when you don't kill infants for being too weak or too strong to control," he remarked. Naruto stood up to leave the room, saying, "My children never asked about you. The clan has all but abandoned you, and even your only remaining daughter despises you. You are a weak man, Hiashi. A truly strong man fights for the betterment of people, not for himself," he said to Hiashi before turning to leave. With a "see you next year" expression, Naruto closed the door behind him and left. Hiashi picked up the pictures and just stared at them. His grandchildren were grinning, his daughter was content, and he was not present for any of it. Like the seal he put on the foreheads of his fellow clansmen, Hiashi was a bird in a cage as he started to cry over his situation and pray that one day he would be free. Hyuga mixture. After returning from his annual trip to Hiashi, Naruto heard a small girl's voice as he entered the house. His two kids were having a fight when he walked into the room where he heard the voice. "You're going to give up once more," Himawari exclaimed in a high-pitched, vivacious voice. "Hiruzen, you are such a giant chicken." Her face and hair color make her look exactly like Hanabi. The only features that indicate she was related to Naruto are her two whisker marks and blue eyes. She was clearly a genius because, even at the age of 5, she was already more proficient in the gentle fist than anyone else in her age group. "Hanabi, shut up." Hiruzen pouted at his sister's jokes. "I can totally do it this time. I just gotta pick the perfect moment." Naruto honored his grandfather by naming Hiruzen after the third Hokage, who passed away just before he was born. With his mother's skin tone and eye color, but his father's blonde hair and face, Hiruzen resembled Naruto more than Hanabi. He was, in contrast to Himawari, at 8 years old and much like his father, a moron when it came to academics. He was fortunate that Naruto was teaching him the fox fist technique because he was more of a brawler and found the stiff, rigid movements of the gentle fist awkward. Naruto said, "You kids," grabbing their attention. Being the father's daughter, Hanabi rushed to embrace him, and he did the same. Naruto asked, "What's going on?" And Himawari answered. She started, "Hiruzen was telling me how he was going to finally." But Hiruzen interrupted her. He looked at the ground and blushed. "Be quiet, not everyone needs to know." "I need to know what?" Hanabi said as she walked into the space. "Nothing, Mom. Let's just head out. The academy starts in 2 hours." Hiruzen exclaimed, running from the room as if it were on fire. As their daughter giggled at her brother's antics, Naruto and Hanabi shrugged and followed Hiruzen. After putting on their shoes, the four of them left the room. Konoha's streets. The foursome strolled down the street, with Hiruzen looking around anxiously and Hanabi and Naruto observing him with curiosity. Hiruzen turned his head to the left, toward the park, and stopped abruptly as the other four continued to walk. While Hanabi and Naruto were paying close attention and Himawari rolled her eyes, Hiruzen commanded them to listen. They all heard music after a brief period of listening. Naruto and Hanabi attempted to stop Hiruzen as he darted into the park, but Hiruzen said, "Follow me." Himawari said, "Here we go again," leading her parents into the park. Naruto and Hanabi became even more intrigued when she abruptly left the road and led them through the park and into the trees. When they got closer, they noticed Hiruzen hiding behind a tree and staring out at the playground where the music was coming from. Upon closer inspection, they could hear a guitar being played and what sounded like female vocals. Then, as she sang in front of at least 54-year-olds, the other four listened. Anything close, as far as we know, could vanish at any time, so proceed with caution. There is only one place where the key to happiness is found, within my soul. You are aware that things are harder to see the closer you get to them. And I'll always be grateful for it. It is a common saying that you will hear from people occasionally, never give up like a movie. They advise you to advocate for yourself, as though it were always that simple. Do you want to survive in another day? Gather some courage in my heart. And I'll always be grateful for it. Now let's move. The kids, who were too young to understand what the girl was saying, kept cheering as she finished, and the adults began to perspire at the girl's use of language. The girl then got up, took a bow, and slung the guitar over her shoulder. "Thanks for listening to me play, you little snot-nosed shits," she said. Naruto recognized the girl as Tamaki Uchiha, the daughter of Sasuke and Tayuya, as he studied her more closely and recalled what she had said. She had the appearance of a smaller, paler Tayuya. Her hair was similar to Tayuya's, with the exception of a few black strands that gave her an almost candy cane-like pattern. A black beanie with a pin of the Uchiha clan crest on the fold just above her left ear was holding her hair down. Hiruzen exclaimed, "She's so awesome," to which everyone turned to watch as he took out a scroll and opened a bouquet of red and black roses. Then he straightened up and declared, "Today I'm gonna confess my love to her and make her my girlfriend," stomping off with a determined expression in his eyes. Only to return 3 seconds later, his resolve gone as he began to blush profusely and poke his fingers together. But what if she doesn't like me? What if she thinks I'm creepy? What if she thinks she's too pretty for me? What if? Hiruzen went on as his parents gave him a perspiration-filled look. Naruto stared at his stammering ball of nerves and thought, "Damn son, you can go 10 rounds in a sparring match with me but freak out over a girl." Seems like Hinata was reborn after all, Hanabi mused, recalling how similar Hinata had been to her son. "You know what?" Hiruzen uttered, capturing his parents' interest. He started, "I'll just wait for tomorrow because..." But then someone yelled. "Hey dipshit," Hiruzen exclaimed as he turned around and saw Tamaki, who was grinning, standing next to his sister. Looking at the flowers Hiruzen was attempting to conceal, she said, "This him?" Himawari nodded in response. "You little sis said you got something for me," she continued. Aye, was all Hiruzen could say before Tamaki glared and cried out. Everyone jumped when Tamaki yelled, "Just give me the fucking flowers already." Hiruzen then gave her the flowers, which she accepted with a blush and a smile. She went to give Hiruzen a cheek kiss, saying, "Ah, dipshit, you shouldn't have." Now even more red, Hiruzen started to pass out before Naruto arrived in time to catch him before he hit the ground. Now blushing and giggling, Tamaki grinned as she turned to face Hanabi. Hanabi laughed when Tamaki said, "I think he likes me." Hanabi said, "Just don't call him dipshit," to which Tamaki appeared surprised. "No way," she said, "my mom always told me boys like pet names and my daddy loves his pet name." Across the city. With a sneeze, Sasuke Uchiha almost spilled his tea. Then Tayuya gave him a look. Sasuke sighed as Tayuya said, "You better not be getting sick duck." Ass. She said it in a sweet tone. "My hair is straight now. The moniker, 'Can't you stop with that one?' was something Sasuke detested. "You'll always be my duck." Ass, Tayuya said simply as she planted a kiss on him, causing the second 2. Last Uchiha to blush. With a motherly tone that made Sasuke sweat, Tayuya said, "Now hurry the fuck up honey. Tamaki's school thing starts in an hour and a half and I want to be there before the rest of those fucking people get there and take all the not shitty seats." Seated beside his wife, Sasuke thought to himself, why can't she realize that using a different tone of voice doesn't make her language any less vulgar? And followed her out the door. Returning to the park. Tamaki said, "Tell him I'm willing to go out with him once he stops being such a dipshit." Himawari rolled her eyes, Naruto laughed, and Hanabi perspired. Hanabi caught Naruto's eye as she dashed off. He said, "I thought that was kind of cute," to which his wife gave him a dumbfounded look. Before she could say anything, he lifted his unconscious son and said, "Let's get going." He then disappeared into a whirlwind of leaves, leaving a furious Hanabi in his wake who took Himawari and followed. Later on that day. After dropping Himawari off at kindergarten and dropping Hiruzen off at school, Naruto and Hanabi went back to the house. Naruto locked the door behind him and trailed Hanabi into the living room. Hanabi didn't see Naruto sit down next to her and put his arm around her as he turned on the television and smirked menacingly. "It's quite quiet, huh?" Naruto questioned, assessing Hanabi's response. She said, "Yeah, both the kids are gone," totally unaware of Naruto's plans. "I got nothing clan-related happening today either," she continued, failing to notice the widening smirk on Naruto's face. She asked, "Do you want to go to the movies or something?" Just as Naruto's hand reached down to grab her breath, causing her to jump. "Naru," she said, casting a questioning glance at him. He stated emphatically, "Both of the kids are gone. They won't be back for hours," and Hanabi understood what he was saying. After that, Hanabi began blushing and giggling like a schoolgirl when Naruto picked her up in a bridal manner and gave her a seductive look. He said, "I'm assuming that's a yes," to which Hanabi nodded before he moved on to the bedroom. After gazing at his spouse for a few more minutes, Naruto thought to himself, my pale-eyed princess. Then, as the woman he loved cuddled up against him, he leaned his head against Hanabi's and went to sleep.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.